Yo, it's another episode of the Gaming Memories Podcast. Oh, shit. I think I have the Rona. I can't get the Corona because, as you guys know, I'm a prophet, duly anointed by the gaming gods, Miyamoto the Father, Kojima the Son, and Carmack the Holy Ghost, appeared to me in prophetic vision, commanding me to create the one true video game podcast. In order to do so, they told me all I simply needed to do was to interview creative and interesting people about their favorite gaming memories growing up, and I have done just that again. I got another sermon coming at you with 16-bit. Is the Instagram handle. He is from Toronto and has a motherfucking super duper legit video game collection. This guy has got everything. And as you would expect with someone who has a giant video game collection, his knowledge about video games, history, business, retro games, peripherals, add-ons, this and that, imports, exports, and everything in between is very, very deep. As usual, we talk a lot about JRPGs because those are my jam. Spoiler alert, he likes Final Fantasy 6 or 3 for you heathen in the US that don't know left from right. And we all around had a super fantastic time. I really enjoyed talking to him. Running time was a little bit long, and that's because we were having a really damn good time. So check him out on Instagram, 16-bit. Everywhere else is 16-bit. That is spelled out 16_bit. Let me check on that. I'm correct. It is 16_bit. He has, I think he said 1,300 total games in his collection. Plus, we had a fantastic time. I'm definitely going to get more gaming collectors and retro game collectors on the podcast. They make for great podcast guests, and their Instagrams are super entertaining, and 16-bits is no different. Please, honestly, check them out. It will blow your mind. There'll be shit on there that you didn't know you knew. You'll see it and be like, oh yeah, I saw this in that magazine or that in this store. It will jog your memory. There's so much to the gaming history and so many consoles and rare games and rare consoles and rare peripherals and rare add-ons. And we go deep. I ask him questions about his most wanted gaming games, which games, which pieces of equipment, which peripherals are the most rare, command the most money. The most expensive retro gaming piece, or the most expensive retro game, I should say, was not what I expected. I'm not going to spoil it. You got to listen to it. Ha ha ha! That's called clickbait in podcasts. That's podbait, bitch. But it's an NES game. I'll say that. Most expensive game, according to him. And I Googled it, and it's goddamn expensive. So I think he's telling the truth. We talked about Hagane, which is a game I've been recently playing. You'll see some posts of some of the gaming retro clips I've been putting up. I have been playing Hagane, which is a super rare Super Nintendo game. I didn't even know it existed. I don't know how I didn't know it existed, because it's fucking dope. You play as a cyborg ninja that kills other cyborgs, and everything cyborgs and explosions. It's like metal, like mixed with sci-fi and ninjas. It's awesome, and it plays really awesome. The moveset, I was playing it last night. For a SNES game, there's the movesets. It's like a full-on fighting game, but it's like a 2D side-scroller, Ninja Gaiden type thing. It's basically Ninja Gaiden on steroids. Instead of a regular ninja, you're a cyborg ninja. It's dope. Thanks to 16-bit for bringing that game up. I started playing it. It's dope. You'll be seeing some clips coming up. If you have emulators, basically is the only way to play that game, unless you're super rich. If you're not against emulators, fire that game up. I highly recommend it. I'm like 3 levels in, and I can't wait to beat it and throw together some highlights and post it, because I think people will really enjoy it. As you guys know, check out 16-bit on Instagram. Follow him everywhere else that is applicable. I will put links in the podcast description. And you also know that if you want blessings from the gaming gods, you know the drill. You got to like, share, and comment. Spread the good news of the gaming gospel. And I promise you, the gaming gods will open the windows of heaven and pour out blessings in such magnitude ye shall not have enough room to receive the blessings. I say these things in the name of Miyamoto the Father, Kojima the Son, and Carmack the Holy Ghost. Amen, and enjoy the show. I'm recording. We have done it.
Right on.
We pushed through some technical limitations, and I am now communicating with you in real time. You're all the way up in Toronto, right?
I am.
Nice. I'm
Close by, just west of Toronto, but yeah.
Sweet.
For all intents and purposes, we'll call it Toronto.
I'm going to do a intro and talk like mad good shit about you and make you sound awesome. But
All right.
But for the people who don't know who you are, which I didn't know, I heard you on, I believe, the Regions Free Gamer podcast. Were you on them?
Yeah, I was on them with them a couple times.
Yeah. I ran across you on then on there, and then I saw your Instagram, and you are what I have like, in the video game world on Instagram, I have it in my mind split into two tiers. There's like, just like memorabilia, like screenshots, what I do videos. And then there's this niche of fucking collectors. Like, and I'm like, oh God, this rabbit hole goes deep. And you have clearly been deep down the rabbit hole.
It goes a bit too deep.
It goes deep. I just started scrolling through your Instagram and I was like, good, like, this guy has stuff I didn't even know existed. But he has it physical, like the attachment. We were just talking about Jaguar, and there's this crazy picture. For those of you who don't know, the Atari, it's Atari, right? Jaguar came out in I'm guessing, like 91?
93.
93?
Yeah.
And it has like this crazy add-on so you can fit 4 controllers. It's got like a Sega CD looking thing on top of it. You have like what appears to me, not knowing much about the Jaguar, like the full get-up for the Jaguar.
Pretty much. There's a couple other super rare kind of official / unofficial stuff that I don't have.
Yeah.
But it's like you gotta draw the line somewhere. or do you? You know?
That's what I'm saying. So yeah, it's So that's the short story. Is you have this crazy video game collection. I heard you on Regions Free. I thought you were super interesting. And the purpose of my podcast is it's really I like to connect with people and let people listening sort of pretend like they're connecting with someone, meeting somebody new, but through the lens of what games they liked. Because everybody has like a different, especially anyone who's deep into gaming, which you obviously are a huge fan. Everyone has sort of like similar but different paths on how they got there based on where they were born, what year were they born, what they had access to, PCs or consoles, etc., etc. And I just find asking people about that endlessly entertaining. It never gets old to me.
Yeah, right on. That's kind of why I originally joined Instagram. I had a really good friend of mine who kept telling me, hey, you got to get on this Instagram. There's a huge gaming community, specifically retro gaming community. And I'm like, social media,
Yeah.
And then finally, it was actually about 6 years ago when I first joined Instagram. I immediately was like, oh man, this is what I've been missing. Because it was like, just boom, all these collectors left, right, and center. And for the most part, a lot of real cool, down-to-earth guys who just like myself want to, shoot shit, talk video games.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I never used Instagram really before I started the podcast. I'm similar, like I don't know, Instagram is what younger kids and girls use. I don't know, I knew I had one and I would like follow some homies and keep up with some friends, but I never explored Instagram until I started the podcast. I was like, well, shit, I guess I could try to use Instagram as a way to like connect and promote. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, there's this whole world of gaming. And I guess there's 3 tiers. There's like streaming and modern games. And then I should say in the retro game world, which is where I gravitated to, yeah, you have this second half or sub niche of just collections. Have you seen the guy? I think his Instagram handle is MEZMORON, Mesmorin.
It's not ringing a bell immediately anyway.
Oh, he's got a legit library.
Yeah.
It's like laid out, like there's shelves and sections. I mean, he must have a big house or something. Or
Wow.
It's like a full-on library you walk through. The rabbit hole goes deep. It goes deep. I'm impressed.
And that just shows, how deep it is, right? Like you're mentioning someone who's obviously huge, right? Has a huge collection. And, I've been on the platform for 6 years now and he's not even ringing a bell.
It's a big community, yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
So you were born in 83, right?
82.
82. So
Yeah.
that's a little bit earlier than me. I always try to guess what your first console was.
All right. You probably won't, but go for it.
Oh, is it obscure?
It's kind of obscure. It's you're not going to guess it.
Damn it. Well, I was going to say like either one of like maybe the Atari 2600 Master System or my third guess. I don't know what my third guess would be. You're a little bit early. You're a little bit too early for me to guess the NES, which is
Right.
the most common.
So when you say 2600, you're half right.
Okay.
It was actually a Coleco Gemini, which is it's a 2600
Yes.
clone that no one has ever heard of, except for you apparently, by the sound of that.
Only because I had a guy on, Brett Weiss. I don't know if you've run across him on Instagram. He covers like a lot of gaming pop culture, specifically like old school pre-NES consoles, and I had him on the podcast.
All right.
He went through like the some odd, like 60 some odd consoles in like a 15-year time frame.
Oh yeah, there was just so many back then.
It's just so many, yes.
It was ridiculous, yeah.
Yeah, and he just basically, he mentioned the Coleco Vision, which is another Coleco console, and he also mentioned in passing the Coleco, would you say Genesis or Odyssey, whatever it was?
Gemini.
Gemini was he just said essentially it's a 2600.
It's a 20, and yeah, so the story behind that is Atari couldn't really copyright the 2600 design because it was all made from just off-the-shelf parts. There was no like real custom chips in it.
Oh, so no patent hardware.
Yeah, anyone could just slap one together, and lo and behold, you have a system that's not a 2600, but it's 2600 compatible.
I mean, so it is a 2600, I guess.
Yeah,
but
it's not identical, but it runs the game, so good enough, right?
Yes, good enough. That seems kind of like a weird move. I don't know how Atari got in that situation. I did learn recently. There's another good podcast. I don't know if you've run across them. They're called Retro Hangover, and
I've heard of.
Okay, they did an episode on the TurboGrafx, and they mentioned that the PC Engine in Japan, and when they wanted to launch it in America at the time the Genesis was coming out, they essentially hired all the guys that launched the Atari. It's like the 52 or the 5600. I think it's the 5200. The last one.
52. It would have been 52, or even maybe 78 at that point. 7800.
I think they said
87. I don't know. I get my years mixed up there.
Yeah, it's one of those two. One of the two latter ones.
Yeah,
and how they just basically buried the TurboGrafx because they just essentially the way they described it in the podcast that the guys at Atari weren't that smart. And they burned Atari to the ground, which makes me.
Yeah, they really did.
Is that part of the reason why? I'm just trying to figure out why would Atari have something that they couldn't patent? That seems like an oversight. Or how did they end up in that situation?
I think. I mean, you're going so far back that they didn't probably just was an oversight. Realistically,
that makes sense. Yeah.
It's the same thing kind of when with what's it called, like Tengen and like all those companies making unlicensed NES games. It was just hard to block them from doing that.
Yeah. Okay. So that may not have been the culprit of bad management at Atari, which did exist, but
it existed big time.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, history's the teacher. That's cool. So you had basically this 2600 clone. A Coleco Vision is the more popular Coleco one. But again, I didn't even know what that was until that podcast. So that's a soup. You definitely, this is episode 27, have the most obscure first console so far. You're the winner. You're the winner.
What do I win?
Nothing, because no one listens to this. This is for me to have fun.
Right on.
Yeah, that is cool. Dang. So what games? What was the pack-in for that?
Donkey Kong.
Oh.
Yeah. So get this. Here's where it gets wacky. So the Atari 2600 version of Donkey Kong was obviously developed by Nintendo, but then published by Coleco. So you've got these three kind of video game titans at the time, all making this like weird menage a trois, and here's Donkey Kong coming out. It's just so weird.
So Coleco had the publishing rights to Donkey Kong?
Yeah, figure that one out, eh?
Yes. Like, I'm so confused. It's like, how did...
it's so weird. It's just so weird. It's like, I don't know. Think of like if like a Sony franchise, like nowadays, like if Microsoft published it. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but obviously they don't own the publishing rights now.
No, I don't... it was just so much different back then, right? It's hard to relate, because I think it's in part because video games weren't taken very seriously at the time, so maybe it was just like copyright law was just like whatever for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's developed by Nintendo, published by Coleco, released on an Atari console. It's like, what?
That is a definite random. I'm going to use that too. I'm going to use that line. Those. Yeah. That's a good menage a trois. Was a great way to describe it too.
It's all yours, man.
You brought up an interesting point, which was something I didn't understand, because video games were always a big deal to me from as early as I can remember. But I was listening to a podcast called Business Wars, where they cover Nintendo versus Sony and Sony versus... They basically go from the NES all the way to almost current day in the Giants, and like a bunch of the business maneuvers. And in that, they talk about, I think his name's Kaz Hirai. I can't remember it, and obviously cannot pronounce it correctly either. But he's the father of the PlayStation, and he really wanted to make the PlayStation happen for a long time. And he was in Sony in the R&D division, but Sony looked at video games as kind of like low level, almost like the equivalent of white trash. Like, it's just rinky-dink kids. Like, it was looked down on a lot in the business world, and I didn't know that. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. And Nintendo was a cart, like a toy company, so that makes sense why they would be more open to like. But I guess according to this podcast, assuming they're right, that it took a lot of internal pressure for Sony to even be open to the idea, and then the whole Nintendo PlayStation fiasco and the double all that happened later. But even aside from making sound chips for the SNES, like just getting them to be open to collaborating with Nintendo and even trying to enter the market, apparently was like he got threatened, like he was going to get. They tried to let him go. Some guys tried to get him fired, and he like maneuvered and went to the CEO, saved his job, got transferred. Like the whole company was like, no. Sony is too good for video games.
It sounds funny saying that.
Yes,
now with what we know,
because ironically that's the most profitable branch of their business.
Yeah, it is right now.
It's crazy.
I'm lost for words. Like, I don't even know what else to say. I mean, you said it all right there.
Yeah, business war. Like, apparently there's another podcast called Retronauts, that covers a lot of cool stuff with video games. But this podcast, Business Wars, they just did like a small episode on video games, and they cover other things. I've only listened to the video game ones, but it was done so well. I'm almost like, shit, if no one's gonna they just need to make a video game only version of this podcast, because I found it's like riveting the whole time. It's like, the things you would never guessed. Sony used to look down at video games, the video game giant. Initially, it's just like weird random things, like your menage a trois. It almost sounds like it's so weird if someone wrote it as like a fictional fan history of video games. You would roll your eyes and be like, oh, whatever. This is so bad. Anyway, all right, Coleco, what the pack-in was Donkey Kong, so I'm assuming you had Donkey Kong?
Yeah, for sure.
And what other games stuck out for you on the Coleco Atari knockoff?
Off the top of my head, I used to play a lot of Dig Dug, Asteroids, like all those classic games. Moon Patrol was a big one for me when I was a kid.
Moon Patrol. I've never heard of that.
It's really cool. It's like a little side scroller where you're like a kind of like a dune buggy on the moon shooting aliens. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, shooting aliens is pretty much like 50% of 50% of the games back then, anyway, right?
Yeah, that's another good point. Why were we? There's a lot of aliens and spaceships. I don't know, but that might be what was going on culturally or maybe business wise.
I don't. Yeah, well, like I mean, just space and stuff like that in general at the time, I think was pretty big. You know, like you got to think the original Star Wars trilogy was massive at that time, right? So anything space related was just
cash grab.
Probably yeah, exactly, for sure.
So
plus they were simple types of games to make too, right? Like think of it, you have your character at the bottom of the screen, you move left, you shoot, you move right, you shoot, and hopefully you don't get shot, right?
Yeah. Tried and true formula. Dude, a tried and true formula that's still at play today.
Damn right it is.
I mean, like I always joke, people complain online about Metroidvanias and how many there are and how many indie games. And I'm like, you can make 1 million of those and I'll play every single one of them. And I will never get sick of it. Like I personally can play that formula over and over and over again. Side-scrolling platformer. I mean, that's been around obviously all the way, at least as far as this. What did you have after the Atari Gemini?
A Master System.
Yes, that was what I was going to guess. Is your first system?
That was like system. My first system. So like, if you want to call like the Gemini like my older brother's system, because like they had that was in the house before I was even born. So I was kind of born into a video game house, so to speak. I got for Christmas. I think it was Christmas '88. I got my very own Master System, and games that really stand out for me on that one. I can't say Master System without saying the Wonder Boy trilogy, specifically Wonder Boy 3. To this day, that's one of my all-time favorite games. And if you want to talk about Metroidvanias, I mean that game is a Metroidvania before the term Metroidvania existed.
Which was also, I'm assuming, because I know the Master System and the NES had some overlap, but did this come out before Metroid?
No, it would have come out after Metroid.
Okay,
maybe a couple years after. Yeah.
Okay. I've wondered about Wonder Boy because there was a Way Forward remake, I believe it was Way Forward, of Wonder Boy, and people spoke very fondly of it. And I watched some footage, but I totally missed the boat on Wonder Boy, other than just knowing that there's been a remake. It looks good. I'm watching some footage right now. It actually,
that remake is absolutely phenomenal. It stays extremely true to the original. It's basically pixel to pixel perfect, and you can flip back and forth between the original graphics and modern graphics, literally with the push of a button. You can just push a button and flip back and forth, and all the enemies, all the positions are exactly the same on both sides. So they did a really, really good job of sticking true to the original. It's a highly recommended game. It's if you get a digital copy, it can't be more than a few bucks.
Yeah. I'm assuming there's multiple versions of it. Is the Master System the best version?
At the time, now here's where it gets weird. So the Wonder Boy series, Sega owned the copyrights to the characters, but another company, Westone, I believe it was Westone, owned the source code. So the original Wonder Boy on Master System was called Wonder Boy. Flip over to NES, and it was called Adventure Island, which everybody knows. But they probably didn't know that they're the same game.
I did not know that.
What I meant is everybody knows of Adventure Island.
Okay, I was like, everybody knows that's what except I meant. For my dumbass.
No. I'm not trying to be like a snob like that.
No. Yeah, I get it.
Everybody knows of Adventure Island, but not many people know that it's really just the Sega game Wonder Boy with with new clothes, so to speak.
I did not know that. Yeah, that's dang. I'm gonna steal that and do a TikTok video on it. I'll credit you.
And then skipping forward to Wonder Boy 3 now, once again, Sega owned the rights to the characters Wonder Boy, but the developer went to NEC and released Wonder Boy 3 on the PC Engine / TurboGrafx as Dragon's Curse. Exactly same game. They look very similar. The TurboGrafx version has better graphics, it's a more powerful system. But even down to the music, it's the same game.
Dragon's Curse. Yeah, I'm pulling up footage of it right now. Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like the pacing. Oh, it is 100% the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. This is what I was hoping for. This is why I stalked you. This is what I wanted.
Deep.
Yeah.
Digging real deep right now.
Yeah. Dang, that's cool. So you did a lot of Wonder Boy on the Master System.
There's three on the Master System. Four Wonder Boys on the Master System. Sorry, I played the first three endlessly, and I've revisited them. In my later years, once I started collecting and picking up games again.
On the Master System, there's a game that I have tried Googling to find, and I've asked like half the podcast guests. Well,
doesn't that drive you crazy when you can see it in your head?
Yes.
And you had no idea what it's called.
It was a robot that kind of looked like WALL-E side-scroller platformer.
Oh my!
It's like the robot had kind of like tank tracks, almost. Like a bottom half was like on tracks, like a tank, kind of like WALL-E, and the top half was like a cutesy, short circuit / WALL-E type guy, Robo Rob.
Yeah, all I'm thinking of is the NES Robot Rob. That's all I can think of right now.
Damn it! I'll find it one day.
Yeah, I know. It's not ringing a bell. I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's all right. I had another one, Guardian Legend, on the NES that took me. That's like
a serious game.
That's a serious game, and it is probably one of the reasons I'm into sci-fi. Just the imagery of the box art and a lot of the sprite work. Mm-hmm. That's probably, I'm a huge sci-fi fan, and I think some of those early NES games are what started me. Guardian Legend specifically started me in that direction, but I couldn't remember it forever, and it was Retro Hangover. I actually described it to him, so it's good. Eventually I will find out what this robot game on the Master System is, because I had his neighbor who had his. All I remember is he had pit bulls. His house was scary as shit. His dogs were scary. But he had a Master System.
So once you got past the dogs, you got to play Master System.
Yes, yes, and it was awesome. I have fond memories. But he had this robot game that I've Googled so many different things trying to find out what the hell was this game. But I'll learn it. And I'll figure it out anyway. After Master System, so you said you came from a video game household.
Yeah.
It sounds like the frequency from the Coleco 2600 ripoff to you getting the Master System. I'm assuming you guys got the NES as well.
Yeah. I remember one day I want to say this was 89 now. I hadn't had the Master System for too long, maybe but only a year. And I was out with my parents, You're a kid, your parents go out, they have to take you with them, right?
Yep.
And when we came home, my brother's sitting in the kitchen playing NES. And I'm just like, well, holy shit. Because he just went out and bought one.
What was he playing? Do you remember what he was playing?
No, Mario.
Okay.
Yeah, Mario 1 for sure.
Yeah.
And
that's early. You guys, that's like, were you in Toronto at this time?
Yeah. We always lived just west of Toronto.
Okay. So that's pretty much right at launch, right? 89, North America?
No, NES was launched North America. There was a limited launch in 85.
Really?
For NES.
I thought it was not. I thought it was almost like 88 or 89 before it came to.
Once this, I think I'd have to double check the details, but I think once it was fully launched, it was 87.
You're right. 85 is initial run.
Yeah,
you're right.
I think it was just a very, very limited small launch.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah,
I'm gonna mental check. I've had that time wrong in my head for a while.
It's all good. Happens to the best of us.
Yes. Keep going.
So from then on in, it was kind of like Sega. What's Sega? Because at that time, Nintendo was more than just a video game company. It was a phenomenon. Like Mario was everywhere.
Yes.
At the time, like I remember in grade 3 having a Super Mario Brothers 2 bookmark. Like, why did I have a bookmark? That was Mario. I just did, right? Mario was just everywhere.
Everywhere.
And even Link was a very popular character to see on random merchandise. I mean, Nintendo did an amazing job of just putting their product right in your face. And as a kid, that's what you wanted. So, from then on in, it was like, oh, Nintendo. And then, once again, my older brother did it again. He went to the States for a couple days with some friends. And he came home while we were out. This is a very similar story. I came back home with my parents, and he's sitting in his bedroom, and he's playing Super Nintendo. And I'm just like, well, holy shit. This is amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
the benefits of having an older brother, I tell you.
I had a little bit of that. My older brothers, one was a lot older than we had. Like, I always explain it. My family's full of like enough crisscrossing divorces it could be a soap opera.
All right.
But essentially, I had the closest brother to me in age. I would see like once a week because of visitation. He'd come over, I'd go over there.
Gotcha.
And the same thing. He always had like doper shit than I did.
Yeah.
And I love him as a brother, and we're really tight now. But as a kid, I was like, yeah, you're cool, but you got a super, or you got a whatever it ended up being. I want to swing back to the NES just because lately I downloaded. I'm very open about this. A lot of people are not cool with it, but I play a lot of emulators. I don't have like a physical collection. I play everything on emulator. So hopefully you're not like, that doesn't anger you. Some people get weird about it. Are you cool with emulators?
It doesn't anger me, no.
Okay.
If you want to play the game, find a way,
Yeah, I basically had a few people kind of like, anyway, so I'm being too sensitive to it. But the point being is I downloaded this like giant emulator, like all NES games, Japan, everything. And it's also full of a bunch of weird demakes that I know were not, like Tekken 4 on NES.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, just like, it's just full of a bunch of weird random shit. And I've just been going through it in alphabetical order and just like trying things out. But the reason why I'm going to swing back to the NES is you obviously were like in the gaming family. Even on the official side, not just like the weird stuff, the official side, there are so many NES games that I never knew about. Even though I played a lot of NES, I would ride my bike down to Blockbuster and save up chore money and rent NES games. I think at the time, distribution, like only the big games maybe were at your local Blockbuster. Is there any games on NES that you played that you feel like were amazing but kind of not well known?
Whew, that's a stacked question.
Yeah, I asked the hard ones because I want to play it. So whatever you recommend, I'm going to go and try out.
I always come back to this one because it's so ridiculous. It was last year. Yeah, last year I was just sitting in my game room here, and I'm like, I'm going to play something random. And I walked over to the NES shelf and I grabbed Air Fortress. And
I've never heard of that. Let's check
and there you go. And I wouldn't call it a great game. It's definitely a good game and definitely worth popping in. But it's one of those, like, you've probably never heard of it. The graphics are not great, but it was developed by HAL, and they did a lot of they did Kirby, for crap's sake. So
yeah, they did Smash Brothers 64, right?
You damn right they did. Yeah. Good call on that for sure. So yeah, it was one of their earlier games. Very basic, gameplay. You get one stage where it's like a horizontal, like side-scrolling shooter, and then the next stage you're inside of the fortress and you have to like blow up the core and everything is blowing up and you have to get out in time. Definitely worth checking out. A lot of fun.
I'm watching some footage. I've never heard of this, and I actually I remember seeing because there's so many games. I was scrolling through the A's,
So many, yeah.
and it's like Air Fortress like just sounded generic, so I didn't click on it.
Totally. And like even like if you look at the cover, you're like Air Fortress. Okay, yep. There's an Air Fortress on the cover. Yep. Next.
Sweet. On the NES, before we move on to the Super, what game do you have the fondest memories?
Oh, I mean, without copping out, Mario 3.
Well, that's not I mean, it's a cultural phenomenon. I mean, that was like
It was huge.
it was huge, but for good reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For damn good reason. It was a hell of a game.
It was a hell of a game. I remember I could never beat it. I would get to the airship. Like the only way I could even get to the end, I would employ. There's no internet, but somehow I found out about all the flutes and the warping. I memorized all that, and I could get to the Air Fortress world.
Yeah.
And I think I would make. I don't even know if I ever even made it halfway through the Air Fortress world, but I could never beat it. But I played it so much, and I remember thinking the first time you like hold down and you fall behind like the box, the layers.
Yeah, the white boxes. Yeah.
I was like, I had never seen like depth or you know what I mean, like that in a video game. I didn't even. It was like breaking the fabric of video game reality for me.
It was.
Yes. It blew my mind.
At the time, you know, like you said, you didn't have internet. You might be lucky enough to have a magazine subscription.
Yes.
Or like a friend that had a magazine subscription. But the internet was the schoolyard. And your Google search was talking to the right kids.
Yep.
And, you know, the day someone told you, oh, if you hold down on the white blocks, you fall through them, and you're like, that's not true. And
that's
then you go
impossible.
home and try it. You go home and try, and you're like, oh my god, I'm behind the scenery. You know,
it's so true. So kids won't. I mean, I don't know what it's like to be a kid today, but it's almost like I mean, I do a lot of creative stuff for work, and this like limitations are good. There's a magic to limitations, and
there's a magic is the right word. You know, it's hard to describe that feeling where, you know, nowadays it's a quick Google search. How do I beat this? Okay, done. You know, back then you could be stuck on a certain spot for days or weeks. You know.
Yes. Yeah, and I mean, obviously the schoolyard. What I also miss, which could be attributed to negative things today, like conspiracy theories that are bullshit. But when it comes to video game, they're harmless. It's like the rumors and the legends and the myths. Like, for example,
that was so.
That was the best.
Like,
yes,
like if you enter a code in Mortal Kombat 2, they're all naked or something like that.
Yes, that's very close to what I was just gonna say. Yeah, on Killer Instinct on the Nintendo 64, like Killer Instinct Gold, I believe.
KI Gold, yeah.
KI Gold, yeah. There was a rumor that my older brother perpetuated to me, and I'm sure he heard it from somewhere else, that Orchid, the girl like in the green jumpsuit that's super stacked, if you did like something right, she would flash the camera.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You know, that's a thing, right?
That's a thing. And dude, the hours I spent just playing matches with her over and over again and just like trying different combinations. Like, because I know fighting games, they borrow moves. Like in every fighting game, the Hadoken is going to be a move.
It's going to be something, yeah.
It's going to be something. So, like, I'm just cycling through Mortal Kombat finishing combinations, like everything I can find in other fighting games to try to unlock.
Trying to see some pixelated titties.
And I was never successful. I don't even know. Obviously, I'm pretty sure it's not real, but there's a magic to that being a part of my childhood, for sure. Yeah. Okay, so did you you had a Sega Master System, but you didn't have a Genesis. You went straight to Super Nintendo?
Yeah, that's right. And I guess that's influenced by just having an NES. The next logical step was to go Super Nintendo, right? I had played Genesis at friends' houses and this and that. I was no stranger to it. I never owned one until I started collecting in my later years here.
Okay, so before we jump to Super, where I'm assuming you're going to have more memories, What do you remember from playing Genesis at friends' houses?
Sonic.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've told this before on the podcast, so I'll make it quick for returning listeners. But the Genesis, for me, I did have a Nintendo. Same thing. Older brother got it for Christmas, but I got to play it, and then I inherited it when like a bunch of divorce shit happened. So it's kind of mine. But the Nintendo. Oh, excuse me, the Genesis, I saved up. Like, I mowed lawns. I had a little shoe box where I drew Genesis controllers and shit on it. I saved up like $60, which probably wasn't even half. But my parents told me if I saved up $60, I could get a Genesis. They bought me Sonic 2 for Christmas before I had enough money. So for months, I just sat and looked at the game and the pamphlet. Couldn't play it.
That's torture.
But it also it was a great experience because I salivated over that game for months and months. I mean, it was probably not even that long. As a kid, in memory as a kid, it seems like I waited a year. It was probably who knows how long it really was. But eventually I saved up enough money. I gave them the shoebox. They went out and bought a Genesis. And low key, it's kind of cheesy, but I almost get like borderline emotional when I think about like putting Sonic 2 in and booting it up because I worked so hard and waited so long. I know Sonic is super standard for everyone that remembers Genesis, but goddamn, that was magic. It was lightning in a bottle, that game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what's it called? Genesis came out in 89 in North America here, right? And Super Nintendo didn't come out till 91, right? So Sonic's, like, specifically is one of those things that all the Mario fans were kind of like, maybe they got something over here, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Now, so I think this would be a good segue into Super Nintendo. I didn't get a Super until much, much later. Like PS1 was probably halfway through its life cycle.
So yeah, we're talking like what, late 90s here?
Yeah, I got into JRPGs, and so I retroactively went back and bought a Super to play Chrono Trigger and a bunch of stuff. But
I mean, if you were into JRPGs, you had to have a Super Nintendo.
You did. That was like, we'll get to that because I'm very I'm very opinionated when it comes to that's my religion is JRPGs. But
all right.
I would argue with kids because I was the only kid that had a Sega, and I would argue with kids growing up. And that was also the magic back in the day was Sega versus Nintendo, Sonic versus Mario. And I will admit now in hindsight, the Super Nintendo overall is a superior system, but I had a Sega, so I'm curious. I'm kind of thinking like real time. Maybe we should have a mock argument. I'm going to try to argue that the Sega's better, and you can argue that we won't do that because it'll be cheesy as shit. But
it really would
be cheesy as shit. But
blast processing, man.
Blast processing was a big one. But I want to say, so Donkey Kong Country came out like late. It was like very well.
Yeah, it was fairly late. I want to say 93 for the original. I could be wrong. I don't know.
I think you're right.
It feels about right.
People say Donkey Kong Country was late in the SNES's life cycle, but there's 3 Donkey Kong countries.
Isn't that wacky?
So anyway,
that
one. I would always argue against Donkey Kong Country with Vector Man.
Okay.
Because they both had that they used computers to render something in 3D, and then they
put
that into sprites.
Sprite.
Yeah. They both had that same style. Comic Zone on the Genesis, I do think has the best sprite animation of all 16-bit games to this day. Still,
that's my white whale, for collecting.
Really, is it hard to find?
It's not easy to find, and it's actually. It's really hard to find in good condition because that was one of the late Genesis games that wasn't released in a clamshell. It was only released in a cardboard box.
Oh.
So it's really hard to find one that isn't beat to shit.
Yes.
At a fair price, anyway.
At a fair price. Yeah, and it's also, I've been playing through a lot of old games on an emulator to try to beat games I couldn't beat as a kid. Mm-hmm. And even with save states, Comic Zone is brutal.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I've never played it, but that's what I've heard. I've heard it's just it's just ridiculous. You only get one life, I think.
Yeah, it's what
Oh my
makes me
God.
sad about that is the game, especially later in the game, as you get like there's like really cool ways you transition between frames of the comic book.
Yeah.
And there's all this love and detail and awesome animations and awesome effects. But as a kid, dude, I never made it more than 3% into the games. It was too hard. So I missed out. I missed out on all of that. And I think
Yeah, for
most
sure.
people did, which is a kind of a bummer. But yeah, anyway, Super Nintendo was better. So I want to, before I ask you what your favorite is, I want to ask you the same question. Obscure favorite on the Super Nintendo, because it also has a very big library.
It does. It has a big library. It's a lot of junk on the Super Nintendo. There really is. But don't get me wrong. Super Nintendo is my favorite all-time console. But
Okay.
man, there's some garbage games on there, like Beethoven. Who the hell's going to play Beethoven?
Beethoven.
Imagine getting that for Christmas. Like, the dog Beethoven? Remember
Oh,
those movies?
the old movie. Yes.
Yeah, can you imagine getting that for Christmas? Or like
Oh
Dennis
my
the Menace?
God.
Like,
I'm gonna play
get
that
out of
shit.
here. But anyway, going back to obscure SNES. Okay, here's one. And this is kind of weird. This is kind of what I've dubbed a reverse hidden gem. ActRaiser.
Oh,
ActRaiser is a game that, from my experience anyway, used to get talked about more back in the day, and even when I started collecting a few years ago, and now nobody talks about it. So it's like it was a game that was kind of popular, and now is just like gone. It's nowhere. Nobody wants to talk about it. So
Yeah.
yes, play ActRaiser. It's amazing. It's an awesome game.
I've seen some footage of it. From what I remember, it's a side scroller and a top down.
Yes,
Like
it's
tactics?
a side scroller. So there's like different lands. You're God basically,
I'm in. I'm
yeah.
sold already.
and there's the whole world's been taken over by evil, and there's no humans left. Blah 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 blah. And there's like different lands or countries, whatever you want to call it, right? And each country you go to, you do a like an action side scroller sequence to kill a boss, and that kind of like opens up the land so you can start developing it. And then as you're developing your country, you run into like a problem. Like your people will run into a problem, like a demon that's trying to influence them or something along those lines, right? And then you go back to be the side scroller stage, and you fight more bad guys and then kill another boss. And then kind of like repeat that for a few stages, right?
I'm looking
Really
at
neat game. It's totally unique. I can't think of anything else that has such contrasting gameplay in
elements.
one
Yeah.
game.
I'm also a fan of like cheese, like what's the word? Like exaggerated metal aesthetics, like Brutal Legend, like like there's like metalheads, and then there's metalheads who just like
Okay.
you know what I mean? Like dragons and sorcery and lightning bolts. Yes.
You need to check out Lords of Thunder, my friend.
This I'm watching ActRaiser footage of the final
Yeah.
boss, and it's metal as shit. It's awesome.
Yeah. That final boss battle is ridiculous because it's a huge boss rush where you have to fight every boss.
Yeah.
And then the final boss, basically all in one shot, like one go. It's just stupid how hard it is.
This looks awesome. I'm gonna write. I have a list of like. I've been trying to just play through retro games and post highlights. I'm gonna put. This
You'd probably be able to run through it in about 10 hours, 12 hours. Like, just beat the whole game, do everything. It shouldn't take you more than that.
Yeah, the boss rush level. It's like you're standing on this cliff. There's all these heads. They have crystals, and you got to go through each one. And
Each one of those heads represents one of the bosses from like one of the previous lands that you've been to.
Okay.
And then you
love that.
get to fight them again, basically.
I love that. I love it. There's a game that people in my TikTok set on the comments to try out called Metal Warriors.
Oh, Jesus Christ! It's a mortgage payment.
To get that game, it is?
Yeah, it's like a loose cart's like $300 US, man.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I played it on emulator last night because I'm an evil a part of the dark side. And dude, that game. I'm also a huge fan of Mecha and Metal are like probably my two favorite things.
Right on.
I could not believe how like much I liked the animation and how tight it felt. And then when I didn't know, because I'm just like fucking around playing it, and you can get out of your mech, so it's like it's got like some Blaster Master elements where you can get out and you're smaller. And then one of the small little human enemies stole my mech and started, and I was like, "What is happening?" I started freaking out. I'm like, I definitely gotta. I don't know how long it is, but I'm definitely gonna play that game too for sure.
That's one I've always wanted to pick up, but
that's a collector's.
I just can't.
It's a collector's. Why do you think that game in particular is so expensive?
It's just pretty rare.
So, what drives collector prices? Is it more the rarity of the game or how good the game? I'm assuming rarity, probably.
There's a little from column A, a little from column B, right? Like a rare good game is going to command top dollar, right? Like something like Hagane. Like that game is rare as shit, but it's also awesome.
Oh, that's the ninja, mech ninja. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a hell of a game. Amazing control set up in that game. So your SNES controller, every button does something different. So like you can just rip through shit as long as you know what you're doing. It's a bit of a learning curve, but
yeah,
awesome game. Emulate it, go for it.
Yeah, I'm gonna. That's one I watched some footage on, and I was like, okay, this is like Metal and Mech and Ninjas.
Yeah,
Ninjas is another. I also love. I keep saying truly everything in video games is my favorite, if I'm honest. But I love ninjas too. Like I think Strider is probably my all-time favorite character. Maybe pretty close. And this Hagane has a little bit of a Strider vibe to it, except you're like a cyborg ninja.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up.
Damn, this is awesome. What is the most expensive video game collector's item right now?
Oh, jeez. Probably I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is the gold NWC cart, right? Where, I mean, I followed an auction on eBay on one like 4 or 5 years ago, and it ended up going for over $100,000.
What?
Yeah. I think there's only 25 of them.
Oh, there's only 25 of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so cause obviously the game. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, there's only 25. When did they? Oh, there's fake ones selling on eBay.
Oh, there's fake ones up the ass, man.
How do you tell the difference between a fake one and a real one on something like that?
I don't know. I'm not getting in that game. I'll tell you that.
You're not going to mess with it. Yeah. Holy cow! $100,000 for a gold NWC.
I mean, probably the only way to authenticate a real one would be to open it up and look at the board.
Would opening it up basically know its value?
Yeah, like because you know if the board was real or tampered with or anything, right?
So there's really no way that makes sense. So if you're selling a fake one, how is anyone going to really know?
Yeah, I mean, unless you have like, like something on the label that very specific,
Interesting. Okay, I'm going to take a quick pee break, and then let's do. I want to go into your Super Nintendo, like the games that you have the best memories with.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good.
Okay. All right. I'm back. You here?
I am back as well.
Nice. All right. So Super Nintendo. I'm going to guess. Let's see. Since you were a video game household, you had to have the games you brought up haven't had like a super. Give me a hint right now. If you could say what genre of games you like type of game. What's your style? Your favorite overall?
So JRPGs from that era.
Oh shit, we're gonna go deep. It's gonna happen.
Get ugly here.
It's gonna get heavy, bro. You don't understand. I mean, maybe
I don't
you do.
understand. You don't understand.
Yes,
I'm older than you. You don't understand.
That's true. That's true. You know what? And I'll have to admit, so I knew what JRPGs were. So I'm assuming because Super Nintendo, let's just get into it because there's like the Super Nintendo is sort of. Maybe you disagree because you are a little bit older than me, but
Okay.
I retroactively played Final Fantasy on the NES through emulators, and I liked them. And I remember watching friends play Final Fantasy and toying around, but I didn't understand.
Yeah. Oh no! I mean, even me, right? Like being a bit older than you, Final Fantasy on NES would have been like way too complicated.
It's too much.
Yeah, it would have been because SNES came out in '91. I would have been 9 years old. Anything before that, trying to play like such a heavy RPG, even if it wasn't too complicated, it probably just wouldn't have held my interest.
Yes, it was, and it was too complicated. And I didn't understand, I guess, what the point was or how the mechanics worked. I remember making a party of all fighters.
Yeah.
And then that not working out, you get to a point where
that does not work at all.
That does not work out. In the beginning, it's like, this is awesome. I just wreck everybody.
The problem is it takes you about 20 hours to find out that this isn't going to work.
Yes. And so I had a little bit of like Final Fantasy sucks. Like I got stuck.
Yeah.
And I didn't get it. But Super Nintendo wise, again, I didn't have a Super Nintendo. I had a Sega. And for some reason... sorry, I'm just adjusting my levels a little bit. For some reason, Phantasy Star didn't interest me at all. It didn't catch
click.
me. Didn't click at all.
Yeah.
But my friend had a Super Nintendo. I didn't want to admit. I started feeling like the Super Nintendo was better, especially on the later end of the life cycle of the Super Nintendo when you had Super Mario RPG, you had Donkey Kong. All these games had come out. I started being a little jealous, and I remember watching my friend play Final Fantasy VI or Final Fantasy III in the US, and being like, "Wait a minute, okay, there might be something to this Final Fantasy thing because this looks dope." And I want to actually fix this. On a previous podcast with Retro Hangover, I said my first JRPG was Final Fantasy VII, which is totally cliche and stupid, and they roasted the fuck out of me for it. But yes, I get it. I've already been roasted, but I knew actually that was incorrect because I also mentioned in that podcast, and you might be able to help me with the timing on this. I bought Beyond the Beyond launch because I was waiting for the JRPG to come on the PS1 because I knew what they were because of my friend at the Super Nintendo. And Beyond the Beyond, I'm almost 100% positive came out before Final Fantasy VII, right?
I think you're right.
I'm almost 100% positive. So I'm going to change that. My first true JRPG was not Final Fantasy VII, assholes. It was Beyond the Beyond. But on the Super Nintendo, you were ahead of the game. I'm sure you played Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VI or 3, Final Fantasy 2. Did you play one that sticks out to me that's more rare? Was the one with the dog, Secret of Evermore? Did you ever play that?
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, I played that back in the day. I borrowed it from a friend, and then I played it again maybe about 10 years ago.
Okay, so you've played it semi-recently for retro gaming, semi-recently.
Yeah.
I remember liking it a lot. I don't know. Did it hold up the last time you played it?
I mean, it holds up the same way Secret of Mana does, right? It's an action RPG. It's obviously very different than a lot of the other RPGs you would have been playing at the time. I think it does.
Okay. So I want to just get right in the JRPG because we've already gone up. What's your favorite JRPG on the Super?
Final Fantasy VI.
Okay. And that makes sense.
What is my favorite game of all time?
Final Fantasy VI?
And there you have it.
Now, I think you can make an argument. I think it's fair to say that one can make an argument for Chrono Trigger.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree.
Are you kidding me?
I mean,
they're like neck and neck.
they are neck. Okay, I agree. There was you know what? I want to ask you about this because I can never find. Oh, I think it's called Beyond Oasis. My brain just had a flash of lightning.
Beyond Oasis, yeah.
That's
I haven't played. I never played that one.
That's like a Genesis Legend of
Yeah.
Zelda type. I don't know why that just came in my mind. That's like an action top down, whatever. So you Final Fantasy VI. What's next on your list for Super Nintendo RPGs?
So yeah, obviously Final Fantasy 6, Chrono, and Final Fantasy 4 would be like the big three, so to speak.
Yes.
And then you're the Evermore and Mana.
Evermore Mana. Did you
Yeah.
play Soul Blazer, Terra Nigama, whatever the?
Oh my god, Soul Blazer! I love Soul Blazer so much.
Okay,
That was a really early. That was probably one of the earlier games I actually played for Super Nintendo. I rented that one to death from a local video store. That was a hell of a game.
When you played Final Fantasy, so did you get Final Fantasy VI like right when it came out?
No. Oh man, I have a story about that one.
Yes.
Let me back up a bit actually. So Final Fantasy 4/2 was another game I rented from a video store. And I remember taking it home, popping it in, and playing it for like a little bit. I just randomly picked up some guy's save file who was at the last save point in the game before you yeah. And even at that, not knowing what in the holy hell I'm doing, I was thinking to myself, like, I can't believe there's games like this. What have I been missing? You know, I've been playing video games all my life, and this has eluded me. What is life? You know, it was like this turning point of my 9-year-old life. You know, I actually did a playthrough of Final Fantasy 4/2 last year on my SNES, and it's just as magical as it always has been.
And what's your favorite part of that game? Because there's some specific parts of that. I played that also retroactively, but there's a specific part in that game that blew my mind. I'm wondering if it stands out to you too.
There's a couple parts. There's a couple parts that I really like now. Maybe because I used to get so stuck on them as a kid.
Yeah.
The Tower of Zot being one spot when you fight the three sisters.
Yep.
Oh man, that I could not figure out what the hell to do as a kid, and like nowadays, it's like really, I was an idiot. Like this is so easy, you know. Going to the Tower of Babel twice.
Yes.
Just spending freaking hours in that thing. Thank God the music in there is good because you're in there a long time.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up.
Yeah.
Tower of Babel, because I grew up in a, like, as Joe Rogan calls it, the nicest cult in the planet, which is Mormons. And
okay.
Tower of Babel, we have like this whole, what's the word, like almost like sci-fi Christian deep like Mormon thing. Like you'd have to be Mormon to get it, but the Tower of Babel is like it's more emphasized in many ways than maybe like your traditional Christian.
Okay.
So the Tower of Babel was like wrapped up in all this, like, what would call it, like, what's the right word? It's wrapped up in all this prestige in my mind as a kid. So the fact that like I got to explore the Tower of Babel, and that was part like that fit into the world.
Yeah.
I was just even playing it in hindsight. I was a little bit older at the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's still like, it made me feel like it was one of the first times I can remember feeling like I was playing in a real different universe. Like I really had escaped to like a different world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do. That game really just set the tone really well. Yeah. And I think in big part was the music. I mean,
definitely.
The music of the Final Fantasy series is just phenomenal. It sets the mood of every situation just perfectly.
Very, very true. All right, but I will admit, because I'm a little bit older, my true school in the dark magic, ancient magic of JRPGs doesn't come into play really until PS1.
Okay.
Which I consider, now I'm biased, I'm a little bit older. I think like the Super Nintendo was almost like the foundation, the seed. But then I think the JRPG thing kind of like blew up into what I consider the golden era when it come in the PS1, and then it kind of went downhill, I think, in general.
I tend to agree.
Good. Okay, sweet. Because if you didn't, you'd be wrong. I'm just kidding. My whole shtick is that speaking of like the religious thing, I always joke around on my like podcast intros and stuff. I'm sure you'll hear it that I was called by the gaming gods to restore the one true gaming podcast, and I'm a prophet and my word is infallible. It's all just me coming to terms with that I grew up in a crazy fairy tale cult, but
Okay.
so I always make jokes, just where you know that comes from. I'll probably make more jokes in the future. But I actually, at the same time, jokes aside, I do think it would be really hard to make the argument that the PS1 wasn't not the PS1, the console, the time frame is sort of the golden era of JRPGs.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't argue. I mean, I tend to kind of mishmash the whole 16 and 32-bit JRPG era together.
You put them together? Okay.
Yeah. Because it really was a decade of just killer RPGs.
Yes.
Like, yeah, obviously they evolved, with the better graphics, better console, right? More powerful console. The games evolved, but the core gameplay was still pretty much the same.
That's what I was just going to say. I was thinking about, aside from, the core gameplay is the same, but even visually, aside from like some of the 3D JRPGs, Final Fantasy 7 through 9, Legend of the Dragoon, and all that, there was also a lot of 2D JRPGs on the PS1 and Saturn that were still the same thing, like just sprites, top down. My personal, and I already know you're wrong because you said Final Fantasy 6 is the greatest game of all time, but you're wrong. It's Suikoden 2. That's actually the greatest video game and JRPG of all time wrapped up. But to your point, that's the same thing as a it's the same formula. It's sprites.
That's what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Like even if you took Final Fantasy 7 and made it a 2D game, it really wouldn't change the gameplay.
Yes. That's a good point. Maybe I should start lumping the 16-bit and 32 together. I kind of have always separated them.
Yeah.
But you really are, as far as structurally, nothing's really different. It's just the coat of paint is a little bit different.
Yeah, for sure, exactly.
Yeah. Whew. Well, I don't even know where to start. I'm assuming you got a PS1 after the...
No, I've never been a PlayStation guy. Yeah.
Blasphemer! Blasphemer!
I will say, though, back in the PS1 era, I borrowed a friend's PS1 along with Final Fantasy 7 and Final Fantasy Tactics. Guess which one I played more?
Dude, Tactics is the best Final Fantasy game of all time. Hands down.
Well, that's a hell of a statement, but it's a hell of a game. And not many people really appreciate it.
Yes.
I think they're just turned off by the complexity of the battles. Like, a battle can last, like, a half hour.
I was going to say 25 minutes, yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, dude, yeah. I argue with people. I get super opinionated on this era. And I love Final Fantasy 7. It's obviously, like, I equate it to maybe the Nirvana of grunge music. Grunge music is awesome. Nirvana is awesome. But there's other grunge bands that are just as awesome, if not more awesome. But Nirvana is the reason many people, if not most people, were exposed to grunge. And so they should always be revered for that. So, like, I think Final Fantasy VII should get its due because it brought in...
a whole broader audience.
Yes.
Yes. Much like Nirvana, timing was a huge factor, I think, too.
Yes. 100%. Agree. 100%. And I think that's important because I don't think we would have gotten some of the more obscure JRPGs if there wasn't a market to support it. And Final Fantasy VII is the reason.
Yeah, Final Fantasy VII, just being this huge commercial success in North America, kind of opened the doors for everything else, right?
So if you were a JRPG fan and you didn't get a PS1, what were you playing during all of this?
Not much. No, that's not true. That's not true. I never owned Final Fantasy VI back in the day. I never owned Chrono Trigger either. I always had to beg a friend to lend them to me. Okay. So, throughout that era, I was kind of backtracking in that sense, getting to play the games that, they weren't too old, really. They were only maybe 2-3 years old, but they were still new to me.
Yes.
But yeah, throughout that era, though, it's going to sound familiar. It's a lot of GoldenEye,
yes,
Star Fox, and, the big N64 titles, because that's what I had at the time, right?
So you went from Super to N64?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think you actually mentioned you're a Nintendo guy earlier on in the podcast. Yeah. So have you retroactively, because I know you love JRPGs, so many were on PS1 and Saturn. Had you gone back and played them or just missed out on them? I
haven't. And honestly, the reason being is just time. I just don't have that time anymore. Cause
I wouldn't do it now if I was you either.
I wish I could. I really wish I could, right?
Yes.
I got a mortgage to pay. I got a kid to take care of. I don't have that kind of time as I used to, unfortunately. I would love to, but nowadays it's a lot more, side scrollers and stuff like that where I can maybe knock off in a few hours rather than 30 hours.
Yes. I'm the same way. As much as JRPGs are the part of my soul, I don't I bought, for example, I supported this one called Indivisible, which was a Valkyrie profile clone.
Okay.
Kind of newer retro. The studio that made Skullgirls, I forget their name. I got it day one, and it's okay, Valkyrie Profile is this awesome, obscure JRPG on PS1. I think it's amazing. Doesn't get enough love. It's might be my favorite battle system in a turn-based game of all time. Just the battle system in itself. And okay, this new dev basically made a reskin. That was their main inspiration, and they were very open about it. Waited for the game. I kickstarted. I waited 4 years, whatever it was, for it to come out.
Yeah.
I bought it and I played 6 hours, 5 hours. It was yeah, I'm done.
Just didn't click, or
I just can't do it. As much as I love, I can't do it.
Yeah. The funny thing is about that, I'm going to totally contradict myself now. Just a few weeks ago, I just finished up another playthrough of Final Fantasy VI.
Yes, and I don't I don't think that's a total contradiction, because when it comes to your true, I don't know, soulmates when it comes to gaming, for me is Symphony of the Night. I play Symphony of the Night every year almost.
Do you?
Basically, yeah, every other year at the most. I have there's this awesome hack for the PS1, ROM hack, Symphony of the Night hack that adds a bunch of stuff, and I'll play through with that hack.
It's an expanded version, kind of?
Yeah, they rebalance things, they add some new animations, some new abilities, and shuffle things around, and it just makes it kind of stirs the pot, makes it a little bit more fresh if you play
That's a hell of a game, man.
Dude.
It's funny, the first time I played Symphony of the Night, I want to say it was 4 years ago. And I had known about it, but I had a roommate at the time who he played a hell of a lot of it from his roommate way back in the day. And I'm like, okay, let's play this game. And if you want to talk about being a dirty emulator, I burnt a copy. I threw blank CD in my CD drive, and I burnt a copy. And we over a few nights, we just kind of tag teamed it back and forth, and it was a phenomenal game. And then when I finally got a legit copy a couple of years later, I'm like, okay, I'll just throw it in, make sure the CD works and everything, and then I just played the whole game. Yes, it's so good.
That's because you're a true faithful servant of the gaming gods. Okay, I'm 6 beers deep. I gotta pee again. Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it, man.
1 second for your patience.
No worries.
So yeah, Symphony of the Night. Did you know about the upside down castle before going into it?
No.
What was
not.
your? Do you remember when Do you have a memory when you were tag teaming with your friend when you guys figured out there's a second half of the game?
Well, he already knew, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it's like, oh boy. But it's good. I'm like, I didn't want it to end, and that's good. It didn't end. Well, it did, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I didn't. I beat it. Well, I thought I beat it. I thought I beat it, and that same friend that had the Super Nintendo that I saw Final Fantasy, he was playing Symphony of the Night, and he was in the upside down castle. I'm like, wait, what?
Wait a minute.
How did you get here? And he just looked at me like, what do you mean? I'm like, I already beat the game. I never saw this. He's like,
oh, so you killed Richter and you got the bad ending.
The bad ending. And I was just like, oh, okay. Because I thought it was, I had retroactively played some Castlevanias on Super and Genesis. I had a few. And so I thought, well, this is a little bit of a departure. They have like an item system leveling. The fact that you, like, oh, you killed Dracula in the beginning and then you fight Richter. Like, they're trying to mix up the whole...
Change it up, yeah.
Change it up. So that's cool. They changed it up. You fight Richter at the end. Cool. I beat the game. Nope. And when I saw that, I was like, wait. And I was also super excited. But at this time, I had definitely started to identify as a gamer, getting into RPGs as well. But I thought I was a real OG. And it hurt my ego very much that I had thought I beat the game and I had moved on. And here was my friend who's I'm supposed to be more legit than he is, and he's playing on the upside down castle, and I should have been the other way around. I should have discovered the upside down castle. I was a little butthurt about it, but I was also so excited because I loved the game, and now I have the second half of the game.
Oh my god! I only beat half the game.
Oh my god! It was. Did
amazing. Did you play Bloodstained?
Yes, I became a completionist later in my life. I 100%ed Bloodstained, level 99, maxed out everything.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I will definitely.
Wow.
Yeah, it's no. I didn't. I should say this. I didn't level up. I didn't max out every weapon. I didn't get like
that would be just be ridiculous. Like maxing out every shard. Like my goodness.
No. Yeah, I should clarify that. This is true. I can see why you were saying wow. I'm like, it's not that bad. I just maxed out my character and my build.
Yeah.
Yeah.
DLC's due out in a couple days, eh?
Dude, they said that you were gonna you can play as Zen. Guess who? Is that the one?
Yeah, that's coming out. I think on the 7th of this month.
Oh, I had given up, honestly. I was like, it's not going to happen.
Well, I kickstarted that game, eh? I was a backer of that one. And
how did you feel when it came out? How did you feel about it?
You want to know why? I was fucking pissed because I got it for Switch.
And it sucks on Switch.
I didn't even put it in. I didn't even put it in my console until they patched it up. And then finally, because I was getting emails like every month from the team, right? From the development team.
Yeah.
And basically on release day, they sent out an apology email. I'm just like, well, this is not good. So finally, when they released the email that says, okay, here's our big patch. The Switch port is like 99.9% fixed. Here you go. And I'm like, okay, now I can play the game.
How do you feel about the game?
I actually just beat it last week. I loved it, man. I was totally addicted to it.
I have mixed feelings because it didn't, and maybe it's like rosy retrospective bias because Symphony of the Night is this legend. I didn't feel like it was anywhere close to Symphony of the Night, but as soon as I started playing it, it stole my life away until I conquered it.
Yeah, it's like I still think Symphony is the better game. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Did I enjoy Bloodstained? Absolutely.
Yeah, dude, I loved something about like the rhythm of those games. I would just put on a podcast and because I wanted to max out, and I would just grind. I'd put on a podcast, like put the music down on the game, and just have the sound effects. That's like one of the combos I like. Turn the music off, only turn the sound effects down a little bit, and then if you're grinding, and put a podcast on. And there's something magical about just I don't know, like hunting for items, grinding for shards. Like, I don't know, because you don't need them. Like, you can beat the game with only exploring like 5% as far as like the shards and the weapons go.
Yeah.
There's so much extra sort of just stuff. I don't know. There's something about that. Like, they just, what's his name? Ikaragi is his name. The guy that the Castlevania.
Oh yeah.
There is Ika. Yeah, there is like a certain something he knows how to tap into for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
64.
I've been emulating some 64 games. Did you see that the Mario 64 just got like an unofficial PC port? Got leaked?
No.
I have it. If you want the dark magic, most of the download links have been taken down because Nintendo.
Yeah, of course.
But someone basically ported the entire game natively, so it's not an emulator.
It's not emulated. It's natively running on PC.
Yes, natively running on PC, and I have
People
it.
have too much fucking time on their hands, man.
It's probably like someone trying to learn how to make a game or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's I will say that as cool as it is running on a PC, it's so brand new now that the mod world hasn't done anything. I still think the best way to play it is Project 64, N64 emulator, allows for texture swapping, like high-res textures.
Oh, okay.
And there's some community texture packs. Some of them are wild and crazy and just crazy for crazy sakes.
Yeah.
But there's one, I think, Molly Mux. Molly Mux has a texture pack where he just basically tried to recreate the original textures, faithful with a little bit of artistic embellishment, into 4K native textures. And that, playing Mario 64 with that texture pack is still better visually than the native PC port. But
nice.
Now that the native PC port is out, I'm sure in like 6 months there's going to be so much, because Mario 64 has this huge underground like community behind it.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
it's going to be crazy.
Getting every single coin in the game, and
all
this weird stuff. Yeah, glitching through walls to beat the game in 8 minutes. You know?
Yes. So you went straight from SNES to 64.
Yeah,
which is unfortunate because the PS1 has this deep library of JRPGs. But I'll forgive you. The gods will forgive you.
It is what it is, right?
But hey, you brought up the most obscure first console, so it's all gravy.
It's okay.
On 64 though, there was some good. Did you play Quest 64?
That game's terrible.
It is terrible.
What a letdown! Oh, finally, an RPG on the N64. and that was that.
Yeah, it wasn't great. Some other games that get talked about a lot as being crappy, but I actually like them, are the Castlevanias on 64.
Oh, you like them? I've never played either of them.
They're not good games. But have you ever seen a movie called Ninja Assassin?
I have not.
Okay, it's a terrible movie, but it's
all right.
It's one of those like it's terrible in a way that to me makes it amazing.
Okay, yeah.
And that's how I feel about the Castlevanias.
Okay, yeah.
They're terrible games.
I can totally relate to that. I have a bit of a fetish for bad games.
What's your favorite bad game?
Well, that's the thing. Is it a bad game? So, like, take Silver Surfer, for example, right? On NES. People say it's a bad game. I think it's a great game. It's just extremely hard.
I've never even heard of Silver Surfer on the NES.
Silver Surfer, really?
My God. Here I am chastising you for no PS1 RPGs, but I don't know what the Silver Surfer is on the NES.
I'm surprised. It's that game's got a bit of a reputation.
Yeah, I've never even seen footage. I'm watching it right now. I've never even seen footage of this before.
It's a bit too hard in the sense that you're a big target and you die with one hit.
Yeah, it's almost like a Gradius, like side scroller bullet hell.
It actually alternates. It goes side scroller and then it goes like horizontal and then it alternates to vertical. Is what I'm trying to say.
Why does he have? So the footage I'm watching, he's like the regular Silver Surfer on his board, but he's got like a ball under him.
It's like an extra shot kind of thing, like a double shot.
Is that part of like Silver Surfer? I'm not familiar with his canon in Marvel comics.
Neither am I, to be honest with you. I don't know a damn thing about the Silver Surfer comics or anything.
It doesn't look too bad. It looks pretty cool.
It's a very frustrating game. It's got a killer soundtrack, though.
What's your second favorite bad game?
Oh, maybe Die Hard on NES.
Wait, there's Die Hard on the NES?
Yeah.
God damn.
It's pretty rare, too. I can't. I don't. That's one of those games I don't understand why it was rare. It's fucking Die Hard. You could have just printed like 1 million copies of it, and people would have scooped it up. Instead, they made it a rare game that nobody had.
Is it rare because they didn't print copies in the beginning that much, or not sell well?
Who knows? Who knows? Who published it? I think Acclaim published it.
Let me see. Holy cow! I did not know this existed either.
It follows the movie surprisingly well too, like almost too well.
Yeah, it's a top-down.
Yeah, it's a top-down. Where the fuck do I go kind of game?
Yeah, and you just shoot bullets. Wow, I mean, like I was saying before earlier, the NES has so many games.
Yeah, it's such an expansive library.
Yeah,
and there's just so much pop culture in there, like from the time, like so many terrible movie games. Oh, let me give you a very unfortunate story of my childhood.
Okay, I'm ready. My body's ready.
So my family and I, we went to visit some family, like some relatives in the States, in the Detroit area. So usually when we went to Detroit or the States rather, my parents would buy me a video game, mainly because they were cheaper down there. Even after you do the conversion, dollar, blah 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 blah, they ended up saving a few bucks. Whatever, I didn't care. I got a new game. So my parents went out shopping. My mom's like, "Okay, what game do you want us to pick you up?" I'm like, "Contra. For the love of God, buy me Contra." And mom's like, "Okay, Contra, eh?" They go out shopping. I'm playing with my cousins, whatever. They come back. My mom goes, "Yeah, I didn't like the cover of Contra. It looked too violent. I got you this game." And it was Back to the Future. And at the time, I was like, "Oh, I love the Back to the Future movies. They're amazing. This is going to be great." I didn't have my NES with me because, we're on a trip, right? Got home, put it in, and it's the worst game I've ever played in my life.
Of course. That game.
It's terrible.
That game is definitely... I didn't play it as a kid, but just because of the internet, I have seen a lot of buzz about how terrible that game is. It's
so bad.
It's just known... It's like... What people talk about terrible bullshit games, usually it's that E.T. game on the Atari that they printed like a bajillion copies of that didn't sell.
I had that one growing up.
Yeah, and then
I was like 4 years old and I knew it sucked.
Yes, that's how bad that game sucked.
Yeah.
And then Back to the Future on the NES is generally brought up maybe as like second, third, fourth when they talk. People are just talking.
You need to emulate it.
I need to try it. Yeah,
you need to just see how bad it is. And it's bad in a unique way where it's like it's you get bored about maybe like 5-10 minutes in and you're like, really, this is it? This isn't even Back to the Future. It's basically a vertical shooter disguised as Marty McFly walking down the streets of Hill Valley.
I just pulled up some he's like, there's like a skateboarding part. It looks a little like Skate or Die.
But you go too fast and you just smash into shit.
Huh. Yeah, I've just heard... I actually never watched footage before. I just had heard it was terrible.
It's bad. It's really bad.
Dang. So Contra would have been cooler, for sure.
That's an understatement.
Yeah. All right, so on the 64... I mean, I'm assuming some of the bigger hitters are going... I mean, the 64 had a smaller library.
Very small.
What what's your biggest game on the 64 for you?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna go with GoldenEye, right?
I've been playing that on emulator. The last
countless hours that my friends and I played split screen on GoldenEye. Just unbelievable. I could even tell you, New Year's Eve, Y2K, we played GoldenEye
because you thought the world was ending.
Yeah, it's like we gotta get our licks in before we all die here.
Yeah.
My parents, we had which was massive at the time, a 35-inch TV. So split screening, you could actually still see what the hell you were doing. So everybody always came over to my place. We'd skip school or whatever, right?
That's even on a 35-inch screen though. The caveat is, I've been playing GoldenEye on emulator, and there's some hacks that help like give it 60 FPS and gives you modern like FPS controls,
right?
Which just makes the experience better. But I did also recently play GoldenEye natively on an actual N64 system at a friend's house, and we played multiplayer, and it was not a. It was probably close. It was probably a 32-inch screen, close to the 35-inch screen. Yes, there's enough screen space, but the frame rate, the game is so choppy.
Oh, totally.
I'm like, as a kid, I don't have a single memory of being confused of like what is going on.
Yeah.
Or it being laggy. But playing it now at a friend's house at a game night, we all threw money down, and like it was just kind of like, we're going to play GoldenEye and put money down, winner takes all. We're all just drinking, and like everybody could not believe how shitty the game played natively on the 64. But as a kid, I remember thinking it played him perfect.
Yeah. And that kind of goes to why I never picked up PS1 even later on. I'm just not a big fan of that generation. Looking back at it now, like the graphics are ugly. The controls, there was no real standardized controls for 3D games yet. So you play GoldenEye, controls are like this. You play a different game, and the controls are completely different, right?
Yes.
Nowadays, every first-person shooter is exactly the same in terms of control, right?
Definitely.
So,
that's a good point. Like a Mega Man Legends on the...
like a lot terrible control.
Yes, I love that game, but yeah, controlling the camera with the shoulder buttons.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's a fair defense. That's a fair defense. I'll accept it.
You'll accept it.
I'll accept it.
Thank you.
So 64 GoldenEye, was there did you play any PC games at all during all this time? Did you have access to a PC?
I did, yeah. I played a lot of PC at the same time, like during that generation. Going into the early 2000s, I skipped a generation of console gaming and just gamed exclusively on PC at that time. So I went straight for my N64, and then I didn't get another console until the Wii came out. Okay.
And what were you playing on PC during that time? What stands out to you?
Return to Castle Wolfenstein. That was a big one.
Oh, you're the first one to bring that game up.
Wasn't that a hell of a game?
Dude! So, I had... Oh, God, I don't even know where to start. That game... I didn't have a PC growing up, but I got access... through the graciousness of the gods, I had access to a PC for a short period of time. And that game was on the PC. And I had played Wolfenstein 3D on some friends that had like DOS computers back in the day.
Yeah.
And I knew I
played the hell out of that back in the day. I played a lot of Wolfenstein 3D, and then going on to Doom after that.
Yes, Doom's another big one. Those were the big hitters. So I never had one, but friends who had computers at home had one. Whose dad was a programmer, so he always had Windows computers.
Right
but I got access to a decent computer, and the graphics at the time were amazing in Return to Castle Wolfenstein, but the supernatural elements of like the Nazis.
Yeah, wasn't it just so cool? Like the whole like the undead, and then kind of like making like almost like mutants.
Yes.
Yeah, not almost mutants, but yes, mutants.
It's almost like not quite mutants, because it was like demon mutants.
Yeah,
they were tapping into like Yeah.
They were tapping into the occult, I think is the word.
The cults, yes. Which, again, for me, that sort of overlaps with just like metal shit and like
yeah,
just
for sure.
like aesthetic, whatever. And
did you
go ahead?
Have you played the more recent Wolfenstein games at all?
I played not there's like I think there's two. I played the first reboot that was on PC where you fuck. Let me open my Steam library. I'll tell you exactly which one it is.
It's called the New Order, probably, right?
I think there's one right before the New Order, or maybe that is because they just came out with like where you're the daughter of Blazkowicz.
Yeah, that one just came out last year, and apparently it sucks.
Yeah, I have it on Games Pass. I played it like 15 minutes and stopped playing.
Yeah.
No, you're right. I have Wolfenstein: The New Order. That's the newest one I played through all the way.
I don't know. I didn't play that one. I played the one after that, the New Colossus.
The New Colossus. Yeah. Doesn't that have like a mecha section where it's like all mech or Cyberpilot? There's something called Cyberpilot, I think.
Yeah, you get these kind of like outfits. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Wolfenstein, Return to Castle Wolfenstein, definitely. I think the timing, the soundtrack, the occult, all that came together. And I mean, I have actually tried to go back and play that game a few times. It still ages well, but at the time, for me, it was cutting edge graphics, cutting edge sound design, cutting edge everything.
Like the technology was catching up to like the imagination of the designers.
Yes. There was a submarine level in that game that sticks out to me. Like there's like a submarine in a hangar, and you got to fight through the hangar, and you got to get in the. And I remember the sense of scale, like the hangar felt like an actual big hangar.
I do remember that stage. Yeah. And you kind of had to be stealth about it.
Yes,
but the place was just so goddamn huge.
And there was an element of stealth to that whole game. There were stealth sections. Then there would be like, you pick up the giant Gatling gun and just ruin
even
everybody.
Like the most recent one, the New Colossus, was it had stealth elements where you had to not necessarily be stealth, but kind of really plan out your attack, or else you would just get demolished. Yeah. And I think they did a really good job on that. In contrast to Doom, whereas Doom you go in like I'm talking about the 2016 Doom.
Yes.
You go in guns blazing and you blow everything up, and that's basically it, right? It's a very frantic feeling. You're dodging left and right, just bullets and demons flying left and right. Whereas Wolfenstein, if you go in guns blazing, no matter how powerful you are, you're going to get killed.
Yeah, it's just totally different vibe.
Yeah, and I think they did a really good job on that, taking two games that back in the day were very similar, Wolfenstein 3D and the original Doom, and kind of separating them nowadays so that you're not just playing the same game where instead of demons it's Nazis.
That's a good point, because yes, in the old days, Wolfenstein 3D and Doom were almost like skin swaps.
Yeah, the gameplay was identical.
Yes.
You ran into a room and you were either surrounded by Nazis in Wolfenstein or you were surrounded by demons in Doom, but essentially it was the same thing.
Same thing, but the newer versions. Yeah, I just played through Doom Eternal like a month, like 3 weeks ago, and that game is pure aggression. Like it rewards you by being.
Yeah, I
aggressive.
can't wait to jump in on that one,
dude. Nothing is. I will say this: I think Doom 2016, in a few regards, is better.
Okay,
like a small subset, but 85% of Doom Eternal is leaps and bounds better than Doom 2016.
Right on.
It's good. I hate to do this, but dude, this beer's going right through me. I'm going to take one more pee break, and then I want to do some rapid fire questions, because I've been stopping around N64, more like Xbox 360, because they're more recent.
Yeah.
But I want to shoot you some rapid fire questions where I'm just going to hit you with like. I also want you to think about it while I'm taking a pee break. Like, best game all of time, obviously Final Fantasy VI, but maybe best soundtrack, best narrative. I'm going to just hit you with some rapid fire questions to end the podcast. I had someone give me some feedback recently that was they liked the podcast, but they have like a completionist mentality. And sometimes when they see that the running time is 3-4 hours, they don't want to commit.
I can I can definitely understand that.
Yeah, so I've been like, okay, I'm going to try to... I can talk all day, every day about video games. I'm going to try to keep it to 2 hours. So we're at 8:30.
Okay.
That's why... It's not that I could... Dude, I'm having a blast. I could talk to you all night long, but I know you got a life. And apparently, I'm not cool enough for people to listen to me for 9 hours straight. So... go ahead.
I'm not either, so...
Okay. And I should have... I didn't actually... Normally, I remember to talk about timing and how much time... And we didn't bring that up, so I'm assuming you don't have endless time either. So I wanted to ask, though, quickly to end. So we talked a little bit about 64. What is your favorite obscure game on the 64?
I really don't know that I have one, to be honest with you. Yeah, I can't say that I do, because back in the day, I played the pure mainstream games, Mario 64, Zelda, GoldenEye, Star Fox,
Yes.
Mario Kart, blah, 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 right? I can't really say that I dug deep into that library at the time, and nowadays I just don't really care to.
As a collector, is there one that kind of stands out, maybe?
Something that's obscure on 64?
Yeah.
Body Harvest. That game sounds interesting.
Body Harvest. I mean,
it's called Body Harvest. Like, how can you not be interested?
that sounds... Body Harvest 64?
I know very little about it, to be honest with you. It's a game that I ended up picking up in like a N64 lot, and I'm going through like the games. Oh, there's this one, there's that one, there's that one. Body Harvest. That sounds a bit not Nintendo,
That sounds like a Marilyn Manson album name. I just looked up some footage. For those of you listening, it looks kind of like a vehicle combat game almost, like Twisted Metal. Maybe there's like an airplane, a boat. Yeah, and like you have like guns that shoot at your car. Yeah, it looks a lot. There's a hovercraft. I think this might be like a Twisted Metal vehicle Oh, I guess there's some footage of a guy in a suit with a gun. Third person action
Everything
shooter.
you're saying is just generic as fuck.
I know. Except for they do. Those hovercrafts back in the day. I don't remember. I had this like remote control hovercraft.
Yeah.
Where like they have like the pad on the bottom where it blows air.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some hovercraft vehicles, which I would say is, how many games have that type of hovercraft in them?
Not many.
Not many. So, but it is pretty generic overall. It has some weird colors. The name Body Harvest sounds awesome, though.
Yeah, it's for sure.
All right, rapid fire questions. What is your favorite soundtrack of all time on a video
Final
game?
Fantasy VI.
Oh! Okay, favorite JRPG. We already
Why?
Because Chrono Trigger is better. And
I know it's not better, but they're both very good. Yes, they're neck and neck, man.
They are, dude. Those two games are almost interchangeable as far as legendary status. Yeah,
absolutely.
So, favorite JRPG we already talked about is going to be Final Fantasy VI.
Definitely.
But what's your next? Like maybe because I love JRPGs, give me your next handful of JRPGs that really are special to you.
Well, yeah, I already mentioned the holy trinity of Final Fantasy VI, Chrono, and Final Fantasy 4.
4, yeah.
2/4. Tactics is up there. I honestly, I haven't played more Tactics just because of the sheer time involved.
I'll give you a tip.
Yeah.
Maybe, this is all over the internet. You probably already know it. But in Tactics, I used to think I was genius back in the day because you can get experience for attacking your own party.
Yeah, I know that. And then you kill them and you're like, oh, crap.
Yeah. So I would just grind by fighting myself and leaving one enemy alive, heal myself, fight myself. That is kind of, now that I think about it, though, the time... That's true. One battle can be 25 minutes. That game is quite a commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to get to some of the more obscure classes.
Yes.
To really dig into them,
yes.
right? Like unlocking all the spells for a time mage. My God, you're going to be there for weeks.
Yep. All right, favorite like overall narrative story in a game.
Yeah, it's going to be Final Fantasy VI again. I just love that whole game.
Yeah, that's
really
the
do.
holy grail for you. That's my Suikoden 2.
It is. It is. I'm sorry.
Yeah, hey, no, I'm not apologetic about Suikoden 2 being the best game of all time, so neither should you be. I mean, you're wrong, but you shouldn't be apologetic. Let's see. Favorite... Okay, most wanted, regardless of price or rarity, just personally, most wanted collector item that you don't have right now.
Probably a Turbo Duo.
That's the PC Engine Turbo Duo?
Yeah, but I would want the North American version.
Okay, let me look that up. Because I know I've seen pictures of the Turbo Duo, but I don't know if I was looking at the
It's a nice-looking console, even by today's standards, I think.
Images. It does kind of look cool. So I was... That same podcast, Retro Hangover, they're talking about the PC Engine Turbo graphics. Mm-hmm. And wasn't there a before the Turbo? So do you mean the Turbo Duo when it was released as a single console or the add-on?
As the combo console.
As the combo console. Okay, let me look that up. Because I know I've seen pictures of the add-on, but
I'm actually a big Turbo guy, which we never even got into. But yeah, I have a Turbo with the CD add-on. Like the two separate pieces, almost like a Sega Genesis and Sega CD.
Yes.
So, but yeah, the Turbo Duo was released very late in the console's life, and it's both systems in one. Basically, it's like it's one. It's a nice looking piece of hardware.
Yeah, I think I found it. Yeah, it looks it does look really good. I like what's the so I'm looking at a picture of it, and you have the two sides, but on the left hand side where it looks like it's the non disc portion of the console. Yeah, there's like a weird cutaway, like next to the controller part, like a piece that pops out.
Oh, that's where the cards go.
Oh, so what's the back half where there's? That's where the guts are. I'm assuming. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. For those of you not, everyone's listening. It's like like a Sega CD. It's like a side by side, a disc drive, and a console kind of.
Exactly. It's got your ROM cartridge and your disc drive side by side in one unit rather than having the add-on that you slap onto it.
How much do those go for right now?
In good working condition, about $400 to $500 US.
Dang. How many were manufactured? Do you know?
Not many.
Not many. Because I do remember that podcast. They were saying essentially, I mean, the PC Engine and the Turbo Graphics in the US didn't sell well in the first place. Not at all, yeah. And all the add-ons did worse. Yeah.
Well, logically, right?
Yeah.
It's like, why the hell did they even release a Jaguar CD? This console didn't sell. Who the hell is going to buy this stupid CD add-on?
Yeah, did you play much of the 32X or the Sega CD?
No. Back in the day, I only knew one person who had a Sega CD, and he didn't really have that many games for it. I mean, I have them all now, but even at that, I really don't play much of them. There's just not much on the 32X to play.
There's not a ton.
That's worthwhile.
I remember.
And on the Sega CD, there's a lot of great JRPGs on the Sega CD, but then going back to the whole time factor, right?
Yes. Yeah. How many? So for those of I'll put this in the intro as well, so people know how legit as shit you are. How many? What is the total count of all like your video game? Like how many items and games and peripherals do you have together? Do you know?
I'm closing in on about 1,200 games.
Woo!
Right now, consoles 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14.
Damn.
15. I'm like literally turned around and counted.
Now, do you have
like 15 consoles? 16. Yeah, 16. Okay, not including like add-ons. So,
do you have them all set up to work?
Yeah.
Damn, that's next
They're
level.
all set up. I have like this crazy array of like switchers and a bunch of cords that look like a plate of spaghetti. But yeah, they all work. Like I can pop on any console at a moment's notice, no
I
problem.
was going to ask. So you basically have to have, because some of them would have been RF, some of them would be composite, some of them you got to like go through a bunch of adapters and then switching input signals.
Yeah, well, I have everything on at least composite at the bare minimum.
Okay.
I can't deal with RF nowadays. It's just looks like shit.
So what do you, out of all those games and out of all those consoles, when you just have like life dies down and you have some free time, what do you most often play?
Oh boy. Well, for the year of 2019, I didn't play much else besides Dead Cells.
That game is awesome, but
Is it ever, man?
it's a new game. But but that game is awesome as shit.
Yeah, it's a hell of a game. But in terms of like something older, I don't even know. I'll just kind of. There's been times where I've literally closed my eyes and stuck my finger on a game and just kind of pulled out whatever I landed on and played it.
How do you, like, what's your thought process on deciding what you want to collect next? Like, are you trying to get complete sets of certain things?
Complete sets are just ridiculous because you eventually run into the rare titles, right?
Yes.
Most recently, I've been trying to get an almost complete TurboGrafx set. I'm at 124 out of 138. Yeah.
So you're close.
Everything else is just too expensive now, though. Like we're talking like in the $500 plus range.
Because it's so rare. Yeah.
And it's not happening.
What's the rarest? What's the rarest TurboGrafx game?
It's Magical Chase.
Turbo.
It's like a side scroller, like shoot 'em up, horizontal. Really good game. I've played a fake copy of it, like a repro. Really, really fun game. But yeah, like loose copies can go for like $2,000.
It looks kind of cool. It's like a cutesy little like wizard.
Yeah, it's like a shoot 'em up.
Yeah. It actually looks pretty. So I know the TurboGrafx, like, sort of straddled in between Master System and Genesis, like as far as power goes.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, this looks like not quite like a full 16-bit game, but it's definitely better looking than an NES game.
You'd be surprised at some of the graphics that console can put out, like Rondo of Blood, for example. That game looks fucking great.
Turbo.
Like when you're considering the hardware that it's running on, like holy smokes, like it's a great looking game.
Let me check some footage out. Oh, dude, that looks like, dude, that looks almost as good as Symphony of the Night.
Holy
shit!
Not many people know, but Symphony of the Night was the direct sequel to Rondo of Blood.
I just can't believe this is on a TurboGrafx.
Yeah, you're playing as
Wow.
Richter. You're playing
Yeah.
as Richter Belmont in that game, and then you go on and you beat Dracula. You know what? The beginning of Symphony of the Night when you
That's the
when
end
you
of
fight
Rondo.
Dracula.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the end of Rondo. Yeah.
Yes.
What
I
is
knew-
a man?
I knew that. I knew that. I just was expecting sort of like a much more of a visual downgrade, like in
No,
colors.
it's a really nice looking game considering the hardware that it's running on.
Wow, yeah, that looks really good. Dang. Favorite single video game character?
Ooh. Well, that's interesting. I don't know.
You got to kill one of your babies. You got to kill some babies and pick one.
It's Kane Highwind. Okay, it's Kane Highwind. Final Fantasy IV.
Hey, at least it wasn't. At least it wasn't Final Fantasy VI character.
Okay, I know I switched it up, but no, Kane is he's just so badass. I don't know.
He's my favorite character in that game, easily.
Yeah,
Easily.
he freaking betrays you twice. So whose idea was it to let Kane hold the crystal? I want to know.
That's actually, as a kid, now that I'm thinking about it, that's a good point. It never really
You went through all this bullshit,
Yeah, that's
to
true.
get that crystal, and who let Kane hold it?
Yeah, bastard. That's making me want to play that again.
That's a great game, man.
The class changes was a big deal for me when that when you get like your upgrades, whatever.
Well, when Cecil becomes a paladin. Oh,
Yes, yes. And when Kane, what does he transform into? I can't
nothing.
remember.
He's always a dragoon.
Does he not have a second class?
Negative.
Negative. Does is Cecil the only one that transforms? I thought more of them transformed.
Cecil, Cecil transforms from a Dark Knight to a Paladin. Aside from that, I mean, Rydia grows up, right? When she goes to the Land of Monsters and she comes back as an adult.
Yes.
And she's a much more powerful version of herself.
Yes.
That's about it.
I think I might be intermixing. There's another, which one is it? I'm thinking Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy 2 is where you go to the moon at the end, right? Or 4.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I got the right. I might be conflating some of the class changes with another Final.
Is Final Fantasy 3 like the original on NES or Famicom, whatever? That game and Final Fantasy 5, those ones are class based, where like you have like 20 classes by the end of the game, and you're flipping back and forth between classes.
That might be because I got Final Fantasy Anthology on the PS1, which has the
I'm pretty sure that has 5 in it, right?
Yes, it's got the Japanese 4 and 5, I believe. Yeah.
5 is a hell of a game, man.
I played through both of them, but my memory is like they're definitely getting mixed up. But Cecil becoming a paladin, that's what I was thinking of. But for some reason, I thought like your whole party got class changes at the same time. No. I'm wrong on that. All right, what is? Let me think, because I know we try to think deep. What's your favorite IP?
Oh, wow. Oh, man. I don't know. I never really thought it. I love video games. What can I know. Say?
These are supposed to be hard. You're supposed to have to kill some babies and pick one.
Favorite intellectual property? I don't know. What's yours?
I was actually just thinking, like, if he asked me that, what would I say? I'm like, I don't know what I would say. I would say, man, that spans the entire. I mean, very few IPs span from like early childhood all the way till now. Mm-hmm. Other than maybe some of your big JRPGs, or like your Nintendo first party, your Mario's.
Yeah,
and
like it's hard. You don't want to cop out and just say the Mario universe, because I love the Mario universe. Like I've spent so much of my childhood and adult life playing Mario games, not just alone but with friends, right?
Yes,
but I don't know Mario. It's kind of a cop out.
I think. Well, I would say, like you keep going back to Final Fantasy VI. I'd go back to Suikoden, the universe, just because at the time I felt. Because the games didn't they didn't culminate in like the end of reality in this like giant over the top thing. Each game was contained in like that country, and you were aware of other countries, so it made the world feel much bigger and real.
Interesting, because
the whole game would take place in like one particular country, but they would bring in characters and they would infer and imply. And then another game would come out in the series, and it would be during a similar time frame but on the other side of the world, and there'd be like a little bit of overlap or something along those lines.
Yeah,
so it made the universe feel real, like at scale, because like I don't have any idea what's going on in Indonesia, for example. Like there could be a full JRPG playing out in Indonesia, and I'd have no idea. But we're living in the same universe, like the same world. As far as like IP. That'd be like my favorite. Well, that's not my favorite world now, but retro. It's meant to be a hard question, so now I'm stumbling on my own question. That'd be a retro world, like maybe existing IP. I might. Ooh, I'd probably say Zone of the Enders.
Wow. Okay.
Which is Kojima's like side mecha project that didn't get a ton of love because Metal Gear is huge. And Metal Gear is cool, but Zone of the Enders has some concepts. I like a lot of anime. I think I have a love-hate relationship with anime. There's so much about anime that I barely tolerate. But a lot of the action scenes are cool, and I think conceptually, like the lore in a lot of anime ideas is really cool. I just don't love the way a lot of it's executed. That's how I feel about Zone of the Enders. There's a lot I don't like about Zone of the Enders, but as far as like a universe, I think a lot of cool video games could be made in. I think that's a really cool universe. Overall, though, number one IP, like the best one. Ooh. I mean, it might. I would say Final Fantasy, but I feel like the ball has been dropped pretty hard. Times.
I mean,
pretty hard.
Did you play Final Fantasy 13?
I bought it. So if you want to get me angry, fucking Christ. I bought Final Fantasy 13 launch. I walked into FYE.
I did too. I bought it on launch day.
Yes, I bought it launch day. I was stoked as shit, and I might have made it 45 minutes. And I could.
Oh, really?
Maybe like 2 hours or 3. Maybe it was longer, but it was pretty quick. I hated it.
I not only beat Final Fantasy 13.
Oh no!
I beat the shit out of it. I did pretty much everything there was to do. There was only like 1 or 2 like really, really, really ridiculously hard side quests. Where like you had to kill like some stupid hard demon that I didn't do.
Like the equivalent of like Ruby and Emerald Weapon or something.
Yeah. Exactly. There was just only like a couple of one of those that I didn't do. But I remember exactly where I was in that game, where I had this epiphany just thinking, this is a game that I would never ever want to play again. When you're like maybe a third of the way, not even through a game, and you think that, it's not a good feeling.
Not a good sign.
But I just kept going. All you do is just hit the A button. That's all you do. You don't attack. You tell your characters, you should do this, and they're like, okay, maybe I'll do that. Maybe not.
Yeah, I think.
Stupid.
I think for me, like I started realizing. I mean, there wasn't a bunch of bad press about 13. There was some like preliminary reviews and things I had been following. I mean, the 13 announcement trailer, the footage like had me pumped as shit.
Yeah,
It looked amazing, and I thought Lightning looked cool as shit. I thought she was like a female, cooler version of Cloud. But when I actually played it, I don't know if like that might have also. I had already. I got to be fair because some people love 13, and it's like almost having this weird, like cult resurgent of people defending it because it's been shit on for so long. Now people are, and I get it. It's probably not as bad. It's been shit on forever, but
no, it is. It's as bad. I went through the whole thing. It's bad.
It seemed pretty bad. Like I also couldn't handle that dude with the fro and the chocobo in his hair. It was. You know what?
That was the biggest problem with 13. You couldn't really relate to any of the characters.
Yes.
Or even worse than that, you didn't really like any of the characters.
No.
They're all just like.
Well, Lightning seemed cool.
Lightning was cool. She was cool, but she was fairly shallow.
Okay,
there wasn't a whole lot of character development for any of them really throughout the whole game. But like, you had the dude with the fro with guns. Okay, yeah, whatever. Then you had this other dude named Snow, and he was just like
the pretty boy with blonde hair.
The pretty boy with blonde hair. Like everyone was just so cliche.
Yeah, it was rough. I did buy. I think there's 13.2 and 13.3 or returns.
There is, yeah. And apparently they got better, but like, who cares?
I bought one of them on a Steam sale where the premise is like Lightning is God, and she's like in heaven, and there's God is like this computer terminal. I don't understand the lore of that game
that
at all.
That just sounds terrible. I'm not gonna lie.
Like, I don't understand the lore. I just bought it because it was like $4 on Steam. Fuck it. Let's buy it. Let's see what happens. I started playing it, and I don't understand the lore. Yeah, but you're like, it's almost like Valkyrie Profile, which I do like, where you're a god and you're trying to like prepare for the end of the world. And I don't know how that fits into the whole Final Fantasy 13 universe. I agree that game. I'm impressed that you made it all the way through the game because I didn't make it far before.
How do you have a Final Fantasy game or any RPG for that matter that doesn't have an overworld?
Exactly.
And when you finally do get to an overworld, you're like 3/4 of the way through the game and you don't even give a shit.
Yes. Like this is the part where you grind and it's supposed to be fun.
Ugh.
Yeah. Final Fantasy X. To be fair, 10 and 12 didn't have like a world map per se. Okay. But they did have like some big areas. It wasn't a hallway simulator.
I never played 10 and I can't play 10 just because I can't stand the look of it.
Well, dude,
I look at the characters and I'm just like, I hate all of you. God. You're all a bunch of fucking douchebags.
I have argued with like the Retro Hangover is on. I've had multiple guests that love 10. And it's all in good fun, but we've been pretty hard. Like they're the only person in 10 that's even redeemable is Orin, the guy in the red jacket that drinks with the big sword. He's cool.
I'll take your word for it.
He's cool. The other like whatever 9 or 10 characters there are, they can all. They can sit on it and spin for all I care. Like Titus. I remember I also bought that game at launch at Toys R Us because Final Fantasy. You have to buy it at launch. And I get it. And I had seen stuff in magazines coming up. I didn't love it, but it's Final Fantasy. It's the first one on PS2. I'm going to get it. And Titus, I was like, why am I playing as basically Ellen DeGeneres in overalls? What the fuck? Like, you're supposed to play as someone dope. Like, Cloud was dope. Squall was moody, but he was still cool. Zidane in 9 was like this cool thief.
Zidane was cool.
He was cool. Now I'm playing as Meg Ryan in overalls. Wow. Like, what is happening?
Can I say something that's going to end your podcast?
Sure.
I think Cloud Strife is one of the worst video game protagonists in the history of video games.
Oh, the gods are angered. The gods are angered. He's not.
The gods are sleeping.
He's not. I wouldn't say he's amazing. Okay, well, you got to expound on that. Like, I don't think he's the best by any stretch of the means. Because obviously, I think Suikoden 2 is the best. You know, as far as RPG goes, I could argue a lot of non-RPG games that I think are better protagonists than Cloud. Okay, but I don't think he's as bad as. So I guess give me your reasoning why you think he's so terrible.
He's a paranoid schizophrenic that hates himself so much that he has to pretend he's someone else, and his friends don't care about him enough to tell him that, no, dude, you weren't in Soldier.
So he's just a normal person.
Yeah, sure. He's a millennial.
He's a millennial. That's a fair point. The friend's not telling him.
Yeah. He's like, oh yeah, when I was in Soldier, and the dialogue is basically just like his friends ... Dude, tell him he wasn't there.
I mean, that's Tifa. Yeah, I haven't played I started the remake and I'm like 4 hours and I just got into other retro games. I haven't been playing it, but I wondered how they were going to handle that because in the original game, I remember thinking in hindsight after I had learned everything and done all the cutscenes, like, why didn't Tifa say anything?
Yeah.
Like, she knew he was full of shit. Like, she recruited him to be part of Avalanche to do the first mission.
Yeah.
And he said he was in Soldier First Class, but he wasn't. Yeah. And she should know that he wasn't.
And can I say another thing about... See, I talk a lot of shit about Final Fantasy VII, and I really don't think it's a bad game. It's obviously not a bad game. It's obviously a very good game. Another thing I don't like about 7 is I don't think Sephiroth is a particularly good villain either.
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know.
There's just he seems a bit hollow to me.
I will agree in the sense of if you
I'll say the hollowness could be like, mystery, and yeah, I can buy that for sure. But I'm like, you don't even see him for like 90% of the game.
But that's the point. That's actually
I know. I get it. It just never really clicked with me, I guess.
Yeah, I get it. And the other thing is,
I'll back it up to Kefka. Like, dude, Kefka was in your face for that whole fucking game.
And
right
that's
from
exactly
the get-go.
what they did for 7. So people complaining about 7 Remake, myself included, Sephiroth shows up in the very beginning.
All right.
Like in a vision.
Yeah.
People have been referencing Kefka as an example of like why that's better. Because the producers of Remake wanted Sephiroth to feel like Jaws, like he's always there.
Okay.
And he's always like could come in and fuck you up. And
I can dig that.
They wanted to move him more towards Kefka. Now, the counter argument would be Sephiroth in the original game, you just hear about him. You see him, like you see the consequences, but without seeing him.
And I get it. It's building up the mystery, and I can totally understand it, but it doesn't click with me. I don't know what else to say.
But Kefka, so I actually thought that about Kefka until I listened to the Retro Hangover podcast. They went over Final Fantasy VII and the remake. And Chris, one of the co-hosts there, is like a big JRPG nerd. And I had the same thought about Kefka. Like, Kefka is just your typical... He's crazy. He's like the Joker. He's just fucking crazy. That's it. There's nothing fleshed out about him. But Chris made a good point. If you know the lore really well, and the extended lore and the extended universe and all the... excuse me, supplemental stuff, they really actually flesh out how Kefka became crazy. Yeah. And it's cool. Yeah. I missed that as a kid. And I think I will agree with you. Final Fantasy VII, the original game, without Crisis Core and without Advent Children, Sephiroth isn't fleshed out. See, when you say Sephiroth is hollow, I'm like, well, I know it.
Maybe hollow is the wrong word. And on that, but you know where I'm trying to come from.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. I think you're right. If you had just played the original game and that's it, and you weren't a full-on nerd,
and that is all I've played from 7.
Yes, then he would seem. I agree. I'm like, actually, I could see that he would be, because all the things that make me know about Sephiroth, like that, really actually all came from Crisis Core.
It came kind of afterwards.
That came from Advent Children. That came from the extended, like this booklet and that interview. Yeah, that wasn't in the original game. He maybe a vague to a fault. I can agree with that. Yeah,
and like Kefka, like he evolves as a character just as much as anyone that's in your party for that whole game, right? Like the first time you encounter Kefka, you're like, "Who's this fucking Joker?" Like he's like a 2-bit like nobody for the Empire. Yeah, and then like as you keep encountering him throughout the game, he gets more and more powerful until he overthrows the Empire at the end of the world, right? See, that's another thing why I like Kefka. Sephiroth tried to destroy the world, but Kefka actually did.
Yes, and I agree. That's one of the like most genius parts about 6 or 3 is that the good guys don't really win. I mean,
they
don't.
They
don't. Yeah, they get revenge, I guess.
Yeah,
but they don't stop the end of the world.
That's a good way of putting it. It's like the good guys don't win. They eventually get revenge, but the world's still fucked.
Yes. If you're an average person, life is not better post Kefka. And
it's like, okay, yeah, thanks guys, you killed him. Everyone's still dying. His life still sucks.
All right, favorites. What gaming, if any, moment made you the most emotional?
Probably the opera scene in Final Fantasy VI.
That's a good one. That's a favorite scene.
That's just so good. It's good for so many reasons, right? The whole lead up to like, who's Maria? This like mysterious Maria, right? And then like, who's Setzer? Setzer's trying to kidnap Maria, and then Celeste stands in for Maria, and then they have the whole story of the actual opera, right? The East versus the West. The hero Draco is killed, and Maria's forced to marry Prince Rolfs, right? that's the story in the opera. Whereas on the outside of the opera, they're trying to lure Setzer into thinking that Celeste is Maria. So all this stuff is happening, and then all of a sudden fucking Ultros pops up out of nowhere, and he's trying to drop a 16-ton anvil on top of everything. That whole scene is just so good, because in the background, the orchestra is still playing. I can just imagine the amount of ROM space that one opera scene took up of that cartridge. It's got to be a massively disproportional amount.
It has to. Yeah, that's a good point, because not only did they have the opera, but they also had like so much scripted events and dialogue.
So much scripted events, but just the music. There's so much music in such a small part of the game that you never hear again in the game. And then you're going through, and one part that really cracks me up is when you're going after Ultros, because he's going to drop the anvil on Celeste's head. You're making your way to Ultros, and you're just fighting rats the whole way. And they keep poisoning you, but just rats after rats after rats. And when you finally get to Ultros and you catch him, what does he say? He says, "Rats." And fucking that makes me laugh every time. And then, you all fall into stage from above. Half the actors are crushed because you all fall on them. Locke, pops up and he's like, "Oh, Locke, the premier adventurer of the world, will save the damsel." And what does Ultros do? He fucking goes along with it. What kind of, so good. Just brilliant writing.
Really good.
Brilliant writing. And then, you do the big battle on the stage where you have to fight Ultros. Good stuff. Just so good. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. It's just like 15 minutes of that game. That's just a huge pinnacle as far as I'm concerned.
It would be interesting to hear obviously there would be a language barrier probably if you could talk to the devs about that scene.
Yeah.
Because I agree, like they probably had to allocate. We were talking about way earlier in the podcast limitations and the magic limitations.
Yeah.
And in those games, they had to really decide, like, hey, this cartridge only holds this much memory.
Yeah.
Like we have to make some decisions, and
that's one reason that game was actually really expensive when it was new. The Canadian dollar at the time was relatively weak compared to the American dollar. So I remember that game here in Canada being $129.99.
Oh my God!
Adjust that for inflation. Nowadays, you're over $200.
Holy shit!
That's just for one game. Now, in the States, it was still an expensive game. I want to say in the States it was $90 new. It's not cheap, man. That's all basically because of the ROM memory. That game took up a lot more memory just to exist than, say, your average side scroller, right? So yeah, the opera scene stands out to me, and then at the end of the game, the fight with the final fight with Kefka, the music there's about 10 minutes worth of music that once again has to take up just an enormous portion of the ROM chip. Sorry, I'm going on a tangent here. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. You brought up one good point, I think, where I can resonate with you as far as, like, in the opera scene, you hear a bunch of music in that 15-minute span that you don't hear in the rest of the game, but it's important. One of the reasons why I like Suikoden 2 so much is not only the music, but they have a bunch of sprite animations for story scenes that are like, you never see those animations again because they're animated for a certain scene where, like, so and so is upset at this person or this event happens, and they hand animate, like, because a lot of times in JRPGs they would have like a handful of set emotions. The eyes would get big for surprise. And they had these rudimentary things. Whereas Suikoden, like, they just animated these narrative scenes, and those animations are never used in the game ever again for whatever, and that made it that made things just kind of like fleshed out. Just still obviously it's still highly limited. This is an old game. It's 2D. It's old school. Like, the resolution is still really low. It's still very limited, but it gave a sense of realism. It's like the same way I would say one of the magical things I think about Naughty Dog games, Uncharted and Last of Us, is the same thing. Like, I'll be walking through an environment in Uncharted 4 or Last of Us and be like, there is so much detail like shoved into this room that no one's going to notice. I'm just going to walk through the room. I'm going to pick up the item.
To detail.
Yes. That makes a difference. That's what makes things feel, I don't know, real, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Well, what did you have? When you were playing those old, 2D games and even, early 3D games, a lot of the experience was imagination, right?
And
those are the things that helped, fire your imagination.
But the flip side of that, to contradict myself, I think one of the issues with modern gaming is when you have to fill in the creative gaps yourself, the way you fill it in your mind is almost always going to be cooler to you personally than if the artists and the engineers and the programmers had full ability to express their vision.
Yeah,
because it's going to be your own taste influencing the way you fill the gaps. The way I imagined Cloud Strife through those blocky characters is different than the way you imagined him.
Yeah.
And I imagined him in the way that I thought was the dopest way possible.
Okay, going back to Cloud, can I just say, I know I'm negative on Final Fantasy VII, and I'm sorry, but he looks really dumb in the remake.
Really?
I'm sorry, if you go back to when Final Fantasy VII was originally released, this remade Cloud Strife would be so fucking sick. Over the top awesome. Please marry my daughter. Just totally awesome. But I think nowadays in 2020, it's kind of passé.
I agree. So I will say this: I had mixed feelings. So I'm only 10 hours into the remake, and I've lost interest. I don't know. I'll probably beat it at some point. And 7 is a big game in my childhood, but
sure.
So I even have the nostalgia of things sort of pushing me, and I still lost interest. But I can agree with you. So that first scene, where it pulls out of Midgar and the logo Final Fantasy VII logo pulls up and the theme hits. I got really emotional. I was like, oh my god, they fucking nailed it. I'm getting goosebumps. But then right after it zooms in, the train pulls up, Cloud jumps off, and I almost had the exact same thought to what you just barely described. This is the perfect Cloud for 2001, whenever it came out. Fast forward.
7?
But I don't think that's cool anymore. That whole anime look and spiky, I'm not into it. It doesn't. Yeah. It's not cool. If Cloud really was this elite soldier or make pretend soldier, why was he wearing these giant baggy pants fucking Jinkos? And why are these where's his tag? I agree. I had sort of a contradictory emotion. One, the old school version was brought to life in a way that was true to the original version.
Yeah.
But two, that look is outdated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with the old school original blocky Cloud, your imagination filled in the gaps, right?
Yes. Definitely. And I would say that the way they portrayed him in the remake is pretty close to what I was imagining the gaps
at the time.
As a kid at the time, but I was also 12. I'm not 12 anymore.
Fair enough.
I don't think the shit that was cool when I was 12 is exactly the same. So I honestly, I can agree with you. And Final Fantasy VII is big for me, but I also agree. It's sort of like the Nirvana. I think 8's better. People shit on me all the time about liking 8 more personally. I hate 10. I love 12. People hate 12. So I don't really care. You can talk shit on Final Fantasy VII.
I know a lot of people who really like 12, actually.
Yeah, I do. I love it too. But,
even if the whole game is just running around in circles.
But that's what I like about it. That's what I like about it. I've been playing
Quest 64. Fuck.
The Zodiac Age remaster adds a few quality of life and convenience things.
Okay.
So you can fast forward. You can skip that. I will say 12 did this stupid thing where you had to get a separate experience point to unlock just the ability to equip weapons, and then you also had to buy weapons and craft them. So it just added all this all these needless barriers to just.
There's almost too many layers.
Yes, and so in the Zodiac Age remaster, you can disable all those arbitrary layers, and you can just get gold, buy a weapon, and equip it. You're done.
Yeah, fair enough.
It makes it so. I'm a little jaded because I've been playing the Zodiac Age remaster. I've been trying to get to a point. So there's a point in the game where there's a certain enemy that spawns enemies, and if you set up your gambit system, basically like your AI for your characters correctly, you can kill the enemies that this enemy spawns without killing the enemy that spawns them over and over and over again. It's called Neglamer, and you can get the game in a loop that will basically just play until everyone's level 99. It's like it's like a trick, and I've been, but you can't get it till like 3/4 of the game, and I want to make a video about it, but I have to get to that portion of the game. Yeah. So I've been playing it again, and with the Zodiac Age remaster, it's not like it's more enjoyable. I can fast forward, I can skip a bunch of stuff. Anyway, I got to pee again, and we're running up. We're already over 2 hours.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous, but it's all good. It's all good.
Dude, it's because we love video games, so it's genuine. Where can people find you? And obviously, I'll put links in all the podcast description. But I know on Instagram you show off your stuff. 16-bit on Instagram. Is it at 16_bit? Right?
That's right. Yeah.
And then Twitter, Facebook, anything else you want to let people know?
Yeah, just Instagram, man.
Sweet. Just Instagram. Yeah. If you want to find some deep cuts, like I said, like we've been mentioned before, you're at 1,200 games. You have it's good shit. Like I think you're one of. I mean, I don't want to talk shit on other collectors because there's so many that I obviously have not been exposed to all of them. But yours is one of them. For whatever reason, the page came up. I started stalking it. It's a good page, man.
Thanks.
I think you do a really good job, and I know. Obviously, before we talked, and now that after we talked, I know your collection is not going to get any smaller.
No, definitely not.
It's definitely not going to get any smaller.
Yeah.
I would love
need a bigger house.
Yes, that's the issue. I would love to have you. So Chris from Retro Hangover brought up an idea of doing like a JRPG themed podcast where we just talk about JRPGs like from the beginning to the end and argue about them and talk shit on each other. I've been trying to find someone else, so I'm going to keep you in mind for that because...
Yeah, I would definitely be down for that. You know, the Super Nintendo era, that's kind of my specialty, so to speak. I'd be down.
I would love to have someone, because I'm less... I know the PS1 era really well. You could be the Super 1 era. I don't know anyone, because basically PS2 and beyond, I fell off the JRPG fan. I haven't picked up.
Yeah, same here.
Someone.
Yeah, that era was like, ooh, pick up gun, shoot guy, dead.
I tried a few of them. I tried Xenogear. I love Xenosaga or Xenogears on PS1. I tried Xenosaga on PS2. All of them. Same thing, like 10, 20. Anyway, I got to pee really bad. I'm going to 16-bit on Instagram. Check him out. I'll put all the podcast links in the description. Support him. The gaming gods will bless you. I promise you, as their prophets, they will open the windows of heaven and send down so many blessings you shall not have enough room to receive him. 16-bit. He's the shit. Thanks for having you on. I appreciate, again, I reach out to a lot of people to ask them, and most people don't even respond. So not only am I grateful that you responded, but you actually hopped on the podcast, and I legitimately had a very fun time. The more I drink means I'm having more fun. And I'm awesome. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm 7 beers deep, which means I had a lot of fun.
I really appreciate you having me. I just, I like to talk video games. So even on Instagram, people, drop me a random, message. I try to make time for anybody who makes time for me.
Yeah, so hit him up if you have any questions about retro gaming, any questions about anything you see on his page. Like I had questions about the Atari Jaguar. Hit him up. He will make